after-hours football debate for poachers, private eyes...
Could I ask you something personal?
...and pole dancers.
I'm not in market for business, love.
Mike Graham's been all three at some point in his career.
Oh, really, you great big sweaty bush idiot?
And I'll tell you what, you were a better pole dancer than presenter, I can tell you that.
The Two Mikes on Talk Sport.
I imagined that I was in one of those situations where somebody is paralysed and only speak with their eyelids.
Yeah.
And I kind of interpreted what he was trying to flutter at me, you know what I mean?
Which presumably was, don't take my tickets, you swine.
No, it was more like, it was very painful.
Did he see you taking the tickets?
He was in a coma, to be honest, so he didn't see much.
I'm not interested in transgenderisation. I've got no plans, à ce moment, to turn myself into a woman, believe it or not. So, vehicular... I can play the sexy phone, the sexy phone, the sexy phone. I can play the sexy phone, the sexy, sexy phone.
This is the Two Mikes. Time to say a very, very good and warm welcome to Mr. Mike Porky Parry. Mr. Parry, how are you?
Yeah, good morning. How am I? Good morning, Mike. Good morning to you.
I've got the shorts back on, by the way.
Yeah, I've got the shorts back on.
Despite that email I read out to you the other day.
I don't care about your petty officialdom.
It's not my petty officialdom.
You're sucking up to the bosses.
I don't make the rules.
Oh, look, sirs, I've got long trousers on, but Mike Parry's got short trousers on. Did you enjoy trying to drop me in it the other night, did you?
That's not what I was trying to help you out.
Trying to make mischief for me?
Not at all. I was trying to help you out, because I thought if you turn up wearing shorts, somebody else who is in authority might take exception to it and send you home. I don't want that to happen.
Your envy and malice towards myself, as my career flourishes over yours, is something to be seen and become a talking point, of course, within broadcasting
All I'm
circles.
saying is that, I did read you the email, and I'm sorry that you've chosen to ignore it, but if you keep doing it, somebody might take notice of it.
Are you going to report me to the bosses again tomorrow morning?
That's the thing I do.
You did report me to the bosses the other morning.
That's
yes, you
not what
did.
I do. No,
I know
not
what you're
at all.
up to. Don't worry, pal. I know your game.
That is not what I do.
Now then, I want to hear that quote in full, please, from Gareth Southgate again.
You want to hear Gareth Southgate again?
I want to hear Gareth Southgate talking about, don't worry, nothing went wrong, and, we haven't got a problem, and we didn't really lose, and we're not going to change anything. Really like to hear that and examine it in full.
OK.
I think sometimes defeat equals misery, and it doesn't always have to be that way. Of course you want to win, but you've got to look at the performance, and if the performance in the main is positive, then as a coach I don't think you can ask any more of the group of players. I think sometimes they feel they should be seen to be miserable because they've lost. We don't have time for that. We've got 2 days now before we play Sweden. It's a game I believe we can win. It's going to be a very difficult game because they'll be buoyed by the result they've got today with 10 men. But every game in this tournament is going to be that way.
I mean, that is the most stupid post-match quote I've ever heard in my life.
Well, what don't you like about it?
Well, I mean, the opening...
You think he swallowed Roy Hodgson's book of after-match quotes?
Sometimes defeat brings misery, but it doesn't have to be like that for us. They should be seen to be miserable because they lost, but that's not necessarily the case. What a load of gobbledygook rubbish.
Well, he also says winning isn't everything, right?
Winning isn't everything.
I'm afraid it is everything in a tournament, isn't it?
Our performance was OK, and then he points out at the end with a total lack of irony, and of course Sweden did all right. They actually won with 10 men.
Well, they actually beat Italy, yeah.
Yeah, beat Italy with 10 men, and Sweden did all right.
And he seems to think, having not been able to beat Portugal, that England can beat Sweden. I'm not quite sure where he gets that from.
England are playing Sweden next. I mean, honestly, it's the most stupid, empty-headed, crass, ridiculous, covering my back quote I've ever heard from a football manager. It was a pathetic performance for England.
Why are you picking on Gareth Southgate?
Because Gareth Southgate's the manager of a team that should have won.
Yeah, but
only 2 nights ago.
Only 2 nights ago, you told me that this team was good enough to beat the senior squad.
I said the under-21 team so good they could beat the senior team, right?
So you've jinxed them, haven't you?
No, I haven't jinxed them.
You've jinxed them.
But remember, John Stones was in the defence when I said that. John Stones isn't in the defence now because he bashed his nut in training, so they had to keep him out for a couple of games.
Yeah, he's got concussion, I think, is the technical term.
He's not going to be playing against Sweden, right? Yeah. But I'm just reading this again. Defeat. This is Gareth Southgate. Can I do a Gareth Southgate? Let me just say...
I don't think you should diminish Gareth Southgate in this way.
Defeat brings misery. No, I can't do a Gareth Southgate because he's got such a nebulous voice. He hasn't got any character in his voice.
I don't know why you're picking on Gareth Southgate.
He hasn't got any character in his voice, and it makes me think...
I think Gareth Southgate should be in charge of the senior team, so I don't know why you're picking on him.
Defeat brings misery, and that it doesn't have to be that way. They shouldn't be seen to be miserable just because they lost. Yes, they should. Don't you understand,
why
Southgate?
Why are you banging the desk?
The pursuit of excellence, and the desire... Just shut up.
Shoot.
The pursuit of excellence and the desire to win and to be better than your opponent is what sport's all about. Do you know what makes me really fed up about Mr. Gareth Southgate?
What makes you fed up about Mr. Gareth Southgate?
He was a hopeless club manager at Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Hopeless. And when a run of games...
Hang on. Before you launch into this sort of personal attack on Gareth
It's not
Southgate,
a personal attack.
up until this moment, right, up until tonight, this guy was being hailed as the best thing England had seen for many a year because the England team were going into this tournament unbeaten. Rather like when Stuart Pearce took them into the last tournament unbeaten and they didn't win a game.
Yeah, but let me just finish
There's a malaise here which is bigger than Gareth Southgate.
No, it's more than a malaise. It's more than a malaise. Let me tell you this. When he was at Middlesbrough and a run of results started forming a pattern, it was inevitable he was going to lose his job. He used to come and do the after-match interview every year and talk about, well, of course, I have to assess my own position. He was actually talking himself down the slippery slope because he knew he was useless. But he was trying to make out how magnanimous he was by accepting the fact that I'm a useless manager. But he was a useless manager at club level. So what does he do? This is what really irritates me. He goes off and decides to become a media pundit, a media commentator.
And did you think he was any good at that?
No, useless. Useless.
I don't understand why you've suddenly taken against this
so
guy.
He starts...
Earlier this week, you had none of these thoughts about Gareth Southgate.
Can you just listen to me, please?
I'm going to try.
So he then becomes a media pundit.
Yeah.
Then he gets an opportunity to go back into management, right, at the under-21 level. Why did the FA appoint him with his track record of being useless as a manager?
You tell me. You know the inner workings of the FA. You've got friends in the FA that you keep telling me about. So why would they have chosen him over anybody else?
Here, Mike, let me turn the coin over, OK? Let me turn the coin over. Okay. So you and I are working together, and all of a sudden, I get the boot because I'm no good. You see what I mean?
I can't imagine that happening.
No, I can't imagine that happening. No. I mean, this is a fantasy world, complete fantasy world.
I can imagine you resigning.
No. This is a complete fantasy world. So what do? I decide I know what I'll do. I think I'll go off and manage the England under-21 team. So I do that for 2.5 years, right? Yeah. And I'm completely useless for that.
No.
Completely useless for that. But then I decide, I'm not very successful at this either. I think I'll go back to broadcasting. And I come and see the boss of BBC Radio 5 Live and say, look, I was a failure last time I was in broadcasting. I've just failed in football management. Would you mind taking me back? Yeah, of course. Welcome back. Here's the doors open. Come back into something you failed at before. Why is Southgate still a manager when he failed so dismally in his first
Hang on.
incantation?
Why have you only just saying this now? Gareth Southgate has been in charge of the under-21 team for a long time.
I was prepared to give him...
No, you were prepared to give him a chance until he lost the game.
I think
you get a bit hysterical here.
I was prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt about a young manager, who'd, sort of faltered on learning his trade at Middlesbrough, but had suddenly grasped the nettle and found himself in the international arena. But as usual, a manager's talent can only really be, sorted and realised in the heat of battle of knockout competition.
That's correct.
And he's failed tonight. He's failed badly.
That would be my point. Let's, instead of listening to you ranting and raving on because you've got some kind of grudge against Gareth Southgate, right? Let's look at some of the actual detail of the story.
Hang on. Gareth Southgate invaded my profession when he is found to be no good at his profession.
Oh, is that why that's why you've taken against him?
I certainly do.
Because you want to be him. You want to be a pundit on television. Is that what you're telling me?
Let me put this to you.
Right.
If Gareth Southgate suddenly fills one of the chairs in a comfy TV studio and starts spouting nonsense about the game
the
game he's just watched, right? That means that somebody else has been pushed out of that chair. That means the person pushed out of that chair in that TV studio might have gone to a radio station. That means somebody has been pushed out.
So this is all about you. So you've turned this into something about you.
That means somebody has been pushed out the radio
Absolutely
station.
Unbelievable.
Eventually, in the pecking order, that might affect me in my job.
Which is why you're upset.
Because Gareth Southgate couldn't be a football manager of any consequence because he was no good at it. Decided he wanted to be a football pundit.
All right. So now that we've established why,
after 35 years of practising my trade, could be a victim of the ego and the sheer narcissism of Gareth Southgate.
Okay, well, would you mind being quiet for a couple of minutes now while we try and explore this particular psychiatric problem that you've got with Gareth Southgate? Now, in that case, you should be praising him to the high heavens, because the first thing that's going to happen is if he gets the boot, right, he'll go back into the profession that you don't want him to go into.
Probably will.
And then you'll be stuck again.
He probably will be accepted back into the football punditry
business. If you had any logic about you, or any sense about you, what you'd be saying is actually it's not down to Gareth Southgate at all. It's down to the players. England failed to score for the first time in 18...
Who manages the players, Mike?
Hang on. England failed to score for the first time...
Who manages the players?
Are you going to let me speak tonight or not?
Yes,
or am I going to have to slap you around?
No.
England failed to score for the first time in 18 matches, right?
Yeah.
Now, whose fault is that?
In the most vital match of the 18.
But what about Harry Kane? Why are you not blaming him? You know, what about all these other great players?
He's
Ward
managed.
Prowse.
He's managed by Gareth Southgate.
What about all these tremendous under-21 players who have done so well in the last 18 matches, and now this time they've let their manager down?
My mate Tim Sherwood brings Harry Kane to the fore. Harry Kane then absolutely sparkles under Mr. Pochettino. As soon as he's given to Gareth Southgate to manage, Gareth Southgate manages to make him a damp squid. He blunts his powder, keeps his powder a damp squib, blunts his powder, keeps his powder dry, takes the bullet out of the chamber.
Uh-huh.
Whatever expression you want to use, that was what Harry Kane was tonight. And that was under the control of Gareth Southgate. Sorry if you think I'm being a bit harsh on Mr. Southgate.
I think you're being very unfair.
I am not being unfair. I am frustrated at the talk, jaw. When we get to the game, I'm afraid it's all pointless. It's just, I'm so disappointed.
The main problem, of course, is at the bottom, at the end of all of this ranting and banging of desks, is that England can't play in international tournaments. It's as simple as that, and we'll have to try and figure out why that is. And if you have any idea, by all means, give us a call. It's not just down to Gareth Southgate, I'm sure. This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the two mics, of course. A very, very massive Twitter reaction to Micah Parry's appalling attack on Gareth Southgate. I have to say,
I'm sorry,
it was a factually
based observation of his recent careers.
Well, all right,
plural,
we've already heard about it.
One in football management and one as a football pundit. These guys always turn to a TV studio when they fail in management.
Well, hang on a second. Here's one from Owen who says the under-21s will be fine. Just because they lost the first game, everyone writes them off. They will win it. Well, not on that form. I don't think they're going to win it.
Well, Sweden can beat other teams with 10 men.
Yeah.
What do you think they do against England?
John says this, that they failed because Southgate, like Hodgson, is a yes man. Matt says Porky's definitely on one tonight. What the one is, I'm not quite sure about, but I don't think it's safe by the sounds of it. James says 5 minutes in and Porky must have seriously high blood pressure. He's slagging everyone off and shouting like a madman.
No, I'm not. I've
never seen anything like it.
I am factually examining the dual roles of Gareth Southgate, a man who tries football management, it doesn't work. Tries football punditry. Goes back into football management. I'm a bit sick. I'm fed up of these, what I call yo-yo manager punters.
All right, well,
yo-yo manager punters.
Instead of you just repeating
in and
yourself,
out of a TV studio.
Instead of you repeating yourself and going banging on about all of that, why don't you give us instead the inner workings of how the FA decides who should be in charge of the under-21s? I mean, who was in charge of the under-21s when you were at the FA?
Ray Wilkins.
Ray Wilkins?
Yes.
Well,
he was very good at it.
He was a pretty good coach.
He was very good at it.
Did they win a tournament under him?
We qualified for one.
Oh, that's good. Well, in the last two tournaments England have qualified for. England have qualified for the last two under-21 tournaments.
Yeah, it's almost impossible not to qualify for the under-21
So you're saying that's not any kind of achievement?
No, I'm saying
listen to this
an achievement.
From Dan. Dan says, two-faced Porky, the under-21s would beat the seniors the other night, he said, and now it's all Gareth Southgate's fault. The great under-21s can't hit a donkey with a banjo.
John Stones wasn't playing. He's the rock of the defence. He should be playing in the main England team.
Berahino wasn't around either, was he?
Sorry, Berahino?
Berahino
what
wasn't
was wrong
around
with him?
either. He had got some kind of last-minute injury that prevented him from doing anything.
Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right? Well, you know, in that case, a manager has to react to that. That's what he earns his money for, plugging the gaps when he has to make enforced changes to his team.
Yeah.
And Gareth Southgate didn't cope with it. I'm sorry.
As for you, by the way, sort of moaning and groaning on about Gareth Southgate because he's in and out of the punditry business, whether he's not managing, he's in TV. What about you? I mean, you get out of the broadcasting business, you went to work for the FA.
Yes.
Well, that's not your business, is it? That's not what you do. You're a journalist. What were you doing going over to work for the, poacher turned gamekeeper scenario?
Because the Nation called me.
The Nation called you?
Yes.
Well, because there weren't enough people working there leaking stories out of the place to destabilise the Football Association.
No, there's a revolution going on at the FA. They had to become more open, more transparent. They had to create a new message. They therefore decided they needed a great communicator to help them do that.
But they couldn't get one, so they hired you instead.
And that was me.
Really?
And myself.
Yeah, but they didn't expect you to be communicating with every Fleet Street journalist behind their backs without asking their permission.
Well, I did it in a subtle way. But myself and David Davis created a new era of open communication between the FA and the millions of fans who rely on the FA to build the football structure in this country.
You were part of the golden generation of FA administrators?
I was. I would say I was.
Here's one from Aidan who says, Porky has a go at Southgate for a 1-0 defeat, yet sticks with Martinez after a terrible season. #odd.
No, that's two completely different things.
How?
Well, Mr. Southgate had already revealed that he can't manage at a club level. That's why he left Middlesbrough, because he was no good at it. So I don't know what he's doing as the under-21 manager.
Why are you calling him Mr. Southgate?
Well, what else do you want to call him?
Well,
I don't
Gareth
know him personally.
Southgate.
I don't know him personally. I'm going to call him my mate Gareth, am I?
Well, you call Tiger Woods Tiger Woods. You don't call him Mr. Woods, do you?
Tiger's one of the most famous men in the world, and everybody calls him Tiger. It's a unique name.
Right.
Name anybody else on earth who's called Tiger.
How about Tony the Tiger?
No, you idiot. A real person, not a fictitious cartoon character that appears on the front of a box of Frosties.
Yeah.
Although, frankly, that's the sort of thing that that you should appear on with your attitude tonight in trying to condemn me for taking a strong line in Gareth Southgate. You know I'm speaking sense.
I think
you know
you're
I'm
being
telling
very
the
unfair.
truth. And if you look at the Twitter account, which I'm looking at now, I'm getting loads of support.
No,
on
you're not
this
getting
one,
any support at
because
all.
I'm brave enough to stand up and say it like it is.
You're getting absolutely no support at all. Max has tweeted out the 2 bites. It's one game, and you go on a mad rant against Gareth Southgate, all because of a personal vendetta against him. Grow up and give him a chance.
What personal vendetta?
Well, because you think somehow he's affecting your professional life.
I don't think that for a minute. What I'm saying is, I find it incredible the way these guys move from, professional football management to punditry, professional football management to punditry. I mean, to me, football is a distinctive career. And the harder you tried it, the more successful you'd be. If you opt out for a couple of years and decide the warmth of a TV studio is better...
Well, people opt out because they lose their jobs and they don't immediately have another one to go to. And people actually rather enjoy listening to some footballers and what they have to say about football matches.
But you
they don't always want to listen to people like you.
But I've already made the point. You and I don't just opt out of broadcasting for a couple of years and go and take a job managing Charlton.
No.
Or take a job managing, Millwall or something like that because we fancy a change of tack and actually wouldn't mind putting a pair of boots on. I mean, it's ridiculous. In my view, it's ridiculous.
Well, that's because you haven't got a background in football. Listen, how about this one, though? Adrian says, this is a very good point. What about Porky taking off as a rugby correspondent for the World Cup in France? I smell a hypocrite. So you were basically pushing somebody else out of a job in that situation, and you didn't know what you were doing.
Hang on. What do you mean?
Well, when you were the TalkSport Rugby World Cup correspondent.
Well, why do you think TalkSport appointed me?
You don't know anything about rugby.
Why do you think people appointed me as the rugby correspondent
Probably
for the World
just to
Cup
get you out of the office, like the same reason everybody sends you abroad any other time.
Outrageous. They did it because I was the best man to communicate, because I regard myself not as a broadcaster, not as a journalist necessarily, not as a radio hack. Yeah. I'm a communicator.
Is that right?
And the communication factor that was needed was massive.
Right.
I must admit, I did have a problem communicating with David, what's his name?
Campese.
Yeah,
because you didn't recognise him.
No, I didn't know.
Only one of the greatest rugby union players of all time.
I know, I didn't know.
Who was also working at TalkSport.
Yeah, I know, and I just thought he was our mate Dave. I didn't realise who he was until the final. I was sitting next to him and saw a picture of him in the programme.
Now, how about this from Craig? People called Tiger. Apparently there's an actor called Tiger Drew Honey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, and how many people have heard of Tiger Drew Honey?
Well, I've never heard of him.
I've never heard of him either, so that's...
Might be a girl.
Thank you very much for that pointless fact, but,
don't start abusing the listeners now, just
keep
because
sending them in, listeners, please.
You're still off on one. I'll tell you what's wrong with you.
What?
Is that I reckon I know what's wrong with you.
What's that?
You were a grump last night because your friend died, and everybody gave you a little bit of sympathy, but actually, it's now become clear that you weren't actually upset because your friend was dead. You were upset because your mortality was staring you right in the face, and it was making you think again of all of the terrible things that you've done in your life, and how actually you were only 36 hours from death yourself, and you might be getting closer to death yourself. That's why you're in a bad mood. That's why you're taking it all out on Gareth Southgate.
What kind of a nut are you? Hey, what do you think I've been thinking
I know
of
you
all
very
day,
well.
You know?
That's exactly what's upsetting you.
No. I must admit, it's been a bit galling to think that my mate is lying in a mortuary in Venice.
Especially since you hate mortuaries.
Well, I do hate mortuaries, you're absolutely right.
Tiger was just hit one into the long grass again.
Oh, dear me.
It's going to be a very painful round. We're going to be following Tiger Woods around throughout the show because he's going to be playing for about another hour and a half.
We are. You've got no sympathy for my mate lying in this ice-cold mortuary
I
in
don't know
Venice,
the guy. Why would I have sympathy for him?
Yeah,
and he's dead anyway, as you said yesterday. It doesn't matter where he's lying, really, does it?
Well, he hasn't got much to worry about now, I suppose. But it's a terrible
don't
thing.
suddenly try and give us all this, Porky, the sensitive man.
Well,
you're only thinking about your own mortality. That's why you're upset.
About his family and all that, there's difficult days ahead, they've got to get him home and all that kind of stuff. But we mustn't talk about that. What we'll talk about is the factual situation.
Yeah.
And I refuse to accept criticism for being bold enough to point out the facts. And the facts are... Or the question that we have to ask is the manager of our under-21 national side up to the job?
Well,
That's the question I'm asking. Is he up to the job?
Well, look at these
when
players,
he makes
right?
the most ridiculous quotes after the game, I'll read them to our listeners again, and then you can make up your mind whether I'm entitled
before you
to
do
go
that,
off
hang
on
on. Before you do that, we're talking about Danny Ings, we're talking about Mr. Kane, right? We're talking about Mr. Redmond, we're talking about Mr. Ward-Prowse, we're talking about Mr. Jenkinson.
All great players at club level.
All these players who you said were great players at club level. all these players who you said could probably take on the senior squad of England and beat them, right?
Mr. Southgate can't seem to pull together into a cohesive team.
What's happened to their firepower? What's happened to their ability to score goals?
I've just told you. The bullets have been taken out of the gun by Gareth Southgate.
Why would he take them out of the gun? He's been firing bullets for the last 18 games.
Yeah, but Mike, we've already agreed that firing bullets in 18 consecutive games, which mean nothing. Qualifying games mean very little, really. We're in a soft group. Mean nothing. Put them into the white-hot heat of instant competition when you've got to win your group games to get through to the proper rounds of the tournament, quarterfinals, semi-finals and final, and he's failed. But all that would be forgivable if this ridiculous quote hadn't been uttered by the man who is supposedly in charge of them 21s afterward. Defeat sometimes brings misery. It doesn't have to be that way. They shouldn't have to be seen to be miserable because they lost. Yes, they should. I want them to hang their heads in shame. I want them to go home tonight feeling they've let the country down.
No, you don't. You just want to have a go at Gareth Southgate because you think he took your job somehow.
I want them to feel... I've never said that.
I've got another couple of Tigers here for you, by the way.
Yeah, go on. Yeah,
Steve has tweeted out the 2 mics. Tiger Backs is a rugby player.
Never heard of him.
Tiger Tim Stevens from Craigie.
Wasn't Tim Henman called Tiger Tim?
He was called Tiger Tim. That's 5 now.
Henman, good God.
I don't think they meant that kind of tiger, though. Well, he was more like Tigger Tim, really,
he was, yeah. He was more like Pussycat Tim.
Bouncy.
Yeah, it wasn't really like Tiger Tim, was he? So, but they're all pseudonyms. I mean, the thing is, Tiger Woods was christened Tiger Woods. So, that's the only one with the real name.
Says Tiger Drew Honey is the eldest kid from Outnumbered, and apparently his dad is a famous British porn star, whose name I'm not going to read out.
Oh, well, blimey, what amazing that is in my lexicon of well-known people in the world. Never heard of him, never will. I think the Tiger Woods situation deserves observation as well.
It does. We're going to talk to Bob Bupker about it very, very shortly.
I'm going to ask Bob the ultimate question because Bob's a mate of Tiger Woods. Isn't it time for Tiger now, literally, to break all his clubs in half?
Well, it's got to be something that he's going to consider, isn't it?
He's going to have to.
He can't keep turning up at big major tournaments. He's now, I think, 195th in the world, and making out that he's got a chance of winning it because he started. I'm not sure what he is right now, but he started off 3 over par after 3 holes.
He did,
and I've just seen him hitting a ball into some very long grass where he might not find it.
Holes. I mean, the thing is, Mike, I know you're not very mathematically minded, but I am. Now, we saw your wonderful equations about the lottery the other day. What happens to the equation when it goes like this? At the moment, Tiger Woods remembered as the man who won 14 majors, right?
Yes.
How long is it going to be before Tiger Woods is remembered for being the man who kept hitting rounds of 85, who kept bogeying the first three holes of the US Open?
No, he will never be forgotten for winning 14 majors. No, he won't.
But the rate of his decline will soon overtake.
No, it won't.
Will soon overtake
you know what you're talking about.
The mountain of admiration.
No, you know even
rate
less
of
about
decline
golf.
over mountain of admiration.
Just stop shouting. You know even less about golf than you do about rugby. And anyway, look into the light for a moment. We're going to talk to Bob Bupker coming up, and you can ask him that question yourself. This is Talk Sport.
Talk Sport.
And it's in!
A diving header at the end of a 50-yard run.
From the root to the tip.
Talk Sport.
But it went straight down the middle.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the 2 mics, Mike Parry and Mike Gray. There will be a podcast coming out very shortly. We're now going to go live over to the US Open, where Henrik Stenson is leading on 5 under with Dustin Johnson. We're going to talk to the hardest working man in the golfing business, Mr. Bob Bupker. Mr. Bupker, very good morning to you.
Hey, my 2 favorite people. Boy, that pumped me up hearing that music being sung by Bing Crosby. And I'll give you a little bit of trivia. I was out in California, and I had the opportunity to meet Catherine Crosby, Bing's last wife.
Right.
And what was she wearing? She was wearing the green fedora. And I said, Catherine, I would kill just to be able to put that fedora on for a minute.
Yeah.
And she said, here, go ahead. So I had Bing Crosby's fedora on the top of my head. And by the way, he played a round of golf in Spain, walked off the 18th green, and dropped dead. So
wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like one of Mike Parry's friends. Most of his friends dropped dead, it has to be said.
That's a bit harsh.
And the guy he was playing with said, geez, that was tragic because I won $10. Now I'm not going to get paid.
That's right. He was probably too up at the time as well. Bob, always great to hear from you, my friend. I've got to ask you the brutal question right away. How long can Tiger Woods go on chipping away at the magnificence of his record that brought him 14 majors before he becomes a laughingstock on a golf course?
it's so much static. I can't hear the question, Mike.
Yes, but you know.
No, I don't know. We were just talking a huge group of us, and everybody had their own idea of what Tiger should do. I said that maybe the time has come for him to take a year off, work on his game, try coming back a year from now. If it's not any better, then just bow out gracefully.
Exactly.
Bow out as one of the greatest players ever to play the game.
Exactly.
And just accept reality.
Yeah,
I mean, this cannot be no fun for Tiger. 4 over par through 10 holes. Might not break 80 today. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
very uncomfortable. But an interesting first day as well. I understand the wind is getting up a little bit, Bob, and I know that we've maybe got another hour and a half or so to go. Not a great start for any European players, particularly, really, apart from Henrik Stenson, right?
Yeah, he had a great day out there. Rory Mcilroy, a little disappointed, world's #1 player, ended up shooting 72, 2 over par. Justin Rose, he's still hanging in there. He's got about 8 holes to go. He's currently at 1 under par. He's got the kind of patience that you need, guys, to play this golf course very well. Phil Mickelson, he had it to 4 under at one point. And as you well know, he's finished second 6 times in this event. He needs this one U.S. Open or a U.S. Open to complete his Grand Slam. And then, you know, he would be the in such lofted regard when you think about only the players that have won the Grand Slam: Gene Sarazen, Ben Hogan, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. Only players in history to have won all 4 majors. Phil Mickelson needs a U.S. Open to be included in that group.
That's right. Now, Bob, I tell you something. I don't think a 2-over score today for Rory Mcilroy is a problem at all. And I'll tell you why. This is almost a brand new golf course to the professionals playing it today. It's not like, you know, St Andrews or one of the courses in America which have been played time and time again. And I think Rory, because of his outstanding ability in his youth...
Just don't jinx him,
outstanding ability in his youth, will have learned so much today from playing this course under competition rules for the first time. I'm predicting now he'll shoot a 66 or something better than that tomorrow.
Wow. I'm going to have dinner with Rory McIlroy later on. Mr. Parry, I'm going to tell him exactly what you said.
Thank you.
And matter of fact, he'll probably pay for the dinner, and if he shoots 66, he'll pay for dinner for the rest of the year.
Absolutely.
But if he doesn't, then I'm going to owe him dinners, and I'm not going to be a happy camper, Mike. You put me out on a limb.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, this is the way I see things happening. I think that boy is so able to learn so quickly from golf courses where he's made a mistake. I believe he'll come back massively tomorrow.
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you, actually, because I mean,
I don't care whether you agree with me.
I know, but you don't know anything about golf. The point about Rory McIlroy, Bob, I think you would say is correct, is when he doesn't shoot a great first round, he can sometimes still stay up in the hunt, but he's never really comfortable unless he's really up in the first 1 or 2, is he?
Well, you know, Rory McIlroy is an interesting study. He hadn't been playing well this year. You know, he had so much hype going into the Masters because the Masters is the missing link for Rory McIlroy to have the Grand Slam. And he didn't respond to the pressure there, then didn't make the cut in the Irish Open. So you started to say, well, what's going on with Rory McIlroy? Then we find out at the Irish Open he's got a brand-new girlfriend. Now, if you have a brand-new girlfriend and you got all the money in the world and you have a chance of playing on Thursday and Friday and getting the weekend off, you fill in the blanks. So Rory McIlroy, I think he is talented enough to come back strong with a good round tomorrow. I don't think it'll take a 66 even to get him in the hunt. If Rory McIlroy is level par or better with 36 holes to go, he'll be a threat in this championship.
Now, I'll tell you who I like the look of is this young amateur, Brian Campbell, US amateur. He's moved up to 4 under with his 4th birdie in 9 holes. What can you tell us about this guy?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, I was impressed with the other amateur, the 3rd youngest guy ever to play in the U.S. Open, a fellow by the name of Cole Hammer. He's only 15 years old, weighs about 95 pounds. It was incredible, just as he tells it, to be able to go in the locker room with all the big names that are in there. And then he said, when I went out on the range and they gave me whatever golf balls I wanted to hit, he said, I couldn't believe it. And he shot a respectable 7 over par 77. Now, I just thought of this, and this could be a factor. Can you imagine if Tiger Woods does not beat a 15-year-old who has never even been to a major championship in his life, even as a spectator, beats Tiger Woods in round 1 of the U.S. Open? The press will have a field day.
Absolutely. And just finally, Bob,
What do you mean, finally?
What do you mean?
Well, how do you know I haven't got another question for
Well,
you?
I don't want to keep Bob too long. He's been on since...
He's been working all day.
Since 7 o'clock this morning, right? Now, Bob, sorry, what I was going to say was we had high hopes over here that Colin Montgomery was actually going to challenge for his first ever major championship at the ripe old age of 50+, but it didn't materialise, did it?
Well, he shot 1 under par. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I mean, he's very happy sitting at 1 under, only 4 shots off the lead. And I think the terrain here, guys, is probably a little too tough for him.
That's what I mean.
The elevation, everybody's saying this is a links-style golf course. Well, it may be links-style looking, but most links courses do not have the severe elevation changes that you have here, and it's a very, very difficult golf course to walk. We've had numerous spectators with sprained ankles. Matter of fact, Henrik Stenson's caddy in a practice round yesterday slipped on a slope and did something to his wrist. All he had, he put a cast on it. He said, I don't want any x-rays. I don't want any treatment. I got a caddy for my man, Henrik Stenson, and I'll take care of my wrist next Monday.
Interesting. Now, the one final question, because this will be the final one, we'll let you go, Bob.
Let's make this the final question.
It will be. This is a very important question. This is the first time, I think I'm right in saying, that the US Open has been held in a state where the smoking of marijuana is actually legal. And people seem to say that apparently...
Bob knows all about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not casting any aspersions, but I mean, I don't know whether it's allowed in the gallery. I don't know whether the players are allowed to partake of it. I mean, you haven't seen any sort of stoners walking around, have you?
Well... I told the producer I had to hurry to get off with you guys because I don't know what time the shop closes. And if I go up to that store and that sign says closed, I'm going to be in a bad mood.
I know.
No, I don't know. I haven't seen any. I haven't smelt any smoke. But if I do, I'll be the first to let you know.
Excellent stuff, Bob. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much for taking time to talk to us.
Hey, Mike and Mike, I love you guys.
Thanks very much indeed. Great to speak to you once again.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that an amazing sort of development? The first time that in the history of the US Open that it's actually legal to smoke pot on the course, whether you're a player, whether you're a spectator. I'm not quite sure whether they've invoked specific clauses, but extraordinary state of affairs. And I mean, I don't agree with you about Rory Mcilroy, and I don't agree with you. I don't know where you got that idea about Colin Montgomery coming back to win his first ever major. The guy couldn't win a major when he was playing, on the tour regularly.
I know that, but I'm telling you, there are a number of people on the inside of the
showing your ignorance.
No, I'm not. Of the golf industry, who said, he's in such good form now, and such a good mental state because he's not expected to do anything. He could be a serious challenger.
So you didn't object.
Well, at 1 under, he's not exactly out of it, is he?
Of course, he's out of it.
He's not out of it.
He's not going to shoot another round like that in the next 2 days.
How do you know?
I promise you.
How do you know? How do you know?
Why are you not objecting to him taking time out from his golfing career to become a TV pundit?
Because he never did take time out from his golf career.
He did.
He never stopped playing golf.
Yes, he did.
No, he did not. You get it right. He was on the seniors tour.
No.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, but that's not the same. He took time out.
I don't care what you say, you're wrong.
He took time out from the PGA Tour because he retired. He then went into punditry. And then because he upset quite a few people because he kept having a go at some British golfers, in particular Lee Westwood, for not winning a major when he'd never won a major.
Yeah, but Lee Westwood hasn't won a major either.
But why should you... but hang on. Why be criticised by a guy who's never won one either?
Well, he's perfectly entitled to say, look, I didn't win a major and I feel like a failure. Lee Westwood hasn't won a major. He must also wear the mantle of failure. It's as simple as that.
How about this from Stuart?
Yes?
Porky's moaning on about Gareth Southgate being useless at what he does. He claims to be an expert on a subject every week, for which he always gets 3 out of 10.
Oh, no.
Which is true. You did get 4 out of 10 last week. This week, of course. Do we see the time, by the way? Look into the light. Look into the light for a second.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know, we wrote that song about you years ago, Blinded by the Lights, because that appears to be what you are.
When you say we wrote the song,
yeah,
what part did you play in writing that song?
No, the music industry. I refer to us as we, as a genre. As a genre. What are you laughing at?
A genre. How pathetic. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mice. As the tournament, day one, comes to a close, about another hour or so to go over in Chambers Bay. Mr. Parry, you might recognise that song because it's your sort of era.
Yeah, what is it?
It was called Begging, wasn't it?
Begging, yes.
To be honest, I wouldn't have recognised the singers.
My era, so you're talking about the 80s, 90s?
Well, maybe a bit earlier, but it would be one of those bands you would remember. It's Frankie Valli.
Frankie Valli.
In the Four Seasons.
I like Frankie Valli in the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
In fact, I know somebody who's been to see the Frankie Valli show, the Jersey Boys, 12 times.
12 times?
12 times.
Why?
They like the musical score and they think it's a great show and all that kind of stuff, right?
Have you been to see it?
Sorry?
Have you been to see
Not
it?
me. I don't have time to go to the theatre. I'd love to. But, listen, I'm going to see... I heard John doing the film reviews last night.
Yeah.
I am determined to get to the theatre, to the cinema, to see The Long Good Friday on the big screen.
Oh, yes. Because
I
mean, as I said to him, I don't think I've actually seen it on the big screen.
One of my favourite ever films, that, you know, Bob Hoskins made his... and I remember John said at the end, he said, Pierce Brosnan made his debut in acting.
Right at the end.
I don't even remember him speaking a line. All I remember seeing is his eyes in the mirror as Bob Hoskins looked in the mirror, and Bob Hoskins knew he was going to his death, didn't he?
That's right.
It was all over. He got in the back of a Jag, actually.
That's right.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
Now,
well, we'll be talking about gangsters and things a little bit later on because the quiz is on the Sweeney, and obviously, you know, that was all about cops and robbers, wasn't it?
Well, they didn't deal with gangsters. They dealt with armed robbery.
Armed robbery. What's the difference between armed robbers and gangsters?
Well, gangsters are sort of mobsters, you know, they're sort of organised crime.
Well, if you run a criminal gang, generally speaking, you are a gangster.
Well, I'm not sure about that.
I've had enough of you trying to pick holes in my lexicography because you tried to do it last night to no great effect. Now, a couple of tweets to read out to you. Dan says, why isn't Porky laying into Tiger Woods' coach? Surely it's his fault he's not playing well by Porky's logic.
No, it's not. No. Tiger was once for about, I think it was 7 years, the number one golfer in the world. He doesn't need a coach.
Yeah.
You don't need a coach when you're the number one golfer in the world. Rory Mcilroy, what's the name of his coach? Nobody knows because Rory Mcilroy just does it himself.
Well, people know if they're very, very into golf.
Yeah.
But let me read you this out from Neil. MG, how does Porky's part-time heart cope with the stress he keeps putting himself under? Time to chill out, Porky. And then lots of people are saying to you, actually, that Tiger Woods' name is not Tiger because he was actually christened Eldrick.
I know that.
So Tiger isn't his real name.
I know, but if you find... I'm sorry, what I should have said is, if you look at the forms that he established him as a professional golfer the first time...
The forms?
The forms that you have to fill in to join the, you know, the USPGA and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
The word Tiger is on those forms,
well,
believe
it may
me.
well be. Well, here's another Tiger. Max says, how about Tiger Williams, a former professional ice hockey player?
Never heard of him.
Played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, most penalty minutes in the NHL ever.
Toronto Maple Leafs? Who cares about the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, it's another sport you know nothing about.
No, I'm telling you, nobody in Southend who stares out at the pier every day has ever heard of Tiger Maple Leafs, so don't worry about that.
Tiger Maple Leafs?
Yeah. Well,
Toronto Maple Leafs?
Toronto Maple Leafs.
How about Paulie Yates and Michael Hutchins' daughter, Tiger Lily?
Well, yes, but that's because crazy people in the world of showbiz always give their children ridiculous names because they don't want them to be associated with the riffraff of the, the Marys, the Susans and the Janes in the world.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Here's another couple of points. Here's one from Bilko who says, tell the Chester Jester, which is quite good, I haven't heard that before.
Quite like that.
If he's so confident on McIlroy, he's currently 25-1 now with the bookies. Why don't you put some money on it?
Well, I might or I might not, but, I object to people telling me how to spend my money. I get begging letters from charities 3 times a day.
Begging letters?
Yeah. And I'm determined not to. Now, talking about begging, right?
Hang on, before we get to that, final one.
Okay.
This is one from Ian. Mr. Parry mentioned Waterloo this week. I backed a horse at Ascot called Waterloo Bridge today.
Well done.
£2 each way, 18-1.
Thank you very much indeed.
Did you back that horse?
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, I didn't.
Well, you're so obsessed with Waterloo, I would have thought you would have seen that and done it.
Yeah, and we didn't talk enough about Waterloo in this week when we celebrated the 200th anniversary of the victory of the Battle of Waterloo.
Look, this Tiger Woods is playing a shot from the road, look.
My God.
He's not even on the course anymore.
Not even on the course, isn't that terrible?
Maybe somebody should give him one of those funny cigarettes to smoke. See if that improves his performance.
Yeah, which state is it in? It's in Washington State?
Yeah,
that's right. I thought it was, yeah.
Washington State and Colorado have now legalised marijuana. And I think California has now legalised it for medical use.
Funny that you know that, isn't it? Right, now then.
It's been in the news.
You had to go at me last night, talking about begging, right? You had to go at me last night because I told a story of beggars who I give no money to, and the reason I don't give them money is because I think that... There's a guy, actually, who sits outside the ferry on the Portsmouth side of the Portsmouth Gosport ferry, right?
You've spoken to me about him before.
Yeah, and he sits there huddled up and, got any change, please? I always say, no, got any change, please? No, I never really get violent, and I mean verbally violent, and say go and get yourself a job or anything like that. I think that's a bit harsh on people who you could describe as vulnerable.
Some people would
you could
say
describe
as
vulnerable, except I want to read you this report which I've just discovered.
Yeah.
Okay, so you say I don't show enough sympathy to beggars. You said I should give them money. You say I should be more sympathetic to their cause. What about this? Only 5 out of 52 beggars in a major British city were homeless, according to police, and half of those supposedly living on the streets had their own homes.
How many?
Only 5 out of 52 beggars.
Really?
Yeah,
so
52
like 10%?
beggars. Yeah, 10%, yeah.
Right.
Now, guess where this is? Nottingham. What's Nottingham famous for? The University of the Trent that I went to.
It is not
yes,
famous.
It is.
Look,
yes, it is.
absolute rubbish. If you go around the world, right, and you say to people, what's London famous for? They'll come up with the Tower of London, the Queen, Buckingham Palace.
Yes,
if you ask them what's Nottingham famous for, they'll say Robin Hood.
Or lace.
What?
Nottingham's famous for lace.
I never liked them.
No, you fool. Lace is exported all over the world, the lace material.
That's not what it's famous for.
It is, and it's also famous for the University of Trent.
It is not famous for the University of Trent, which is not even the top university in Nottingham, never mind in Britain.
Right. Now, let me just read this report, because you want to rubbish this report, because you know that it proves...
I've no idea what report you're referring to.
It proves that my attitude towards the beggary
Listen, I'm the one...
right.
If you seem to have forgotten your recent history, right? When we started working together on the morning show, right? Yes. I was the one that said to you, stop giving money to people, because you kept giving money to people on the street, because I said you were only doing it to make yourself feel good.
I didn't.
It's me that stopped you doing it.
I gave money.
I don't give money to beggars either.
No, I gave money to religious campaigners who were trying to set up new churches.
You used to give money to big issue sellers.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
That's an outright lie.
Let me go on. Right, a further 16 out of these 52 admitted that they lived with family or friends, so they're not really beggars, OK? Police in Nottingham are now handing out fines of up to £200 to people who persistently ask for money.
Yeah.
Officers fined 4 people last month, but the move has been criticised by the genuinely homeless people who say it is hitting the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Now, John Louth, who is 43, who's been living on the streets allegedly since last September, said he's often woken and moved on at night. He admits some beggars were exploiting good Samaritans, i.e. people who hand out money to beggars, but said a £90 fine that he received was unfair. Well, get off the streets, Mr. Louth.
Well, where's he meant to go?
Mr. Louth said there are some people who you see begging every day who go back to houses at night.
Yeah.
Some of them really frustrate me because they make people question the legitimate those who legitimately need help. The survey conducted by an organisation called Framework, who are a homeless charity, found that 27 of the 52 beggars had alcohol problems. What a surprise. If you're sitting around on a pavement all day, what are you supposed to do? Of course you get yourself bladdered because it's so boring sitting on a cold pavement waiting for people to give you money. And I bet you
So what is your conclusion to this amazing
Well, my
study
conclusion to this is that begging has become an industry.
Of course.
And therefore,
everybody knows that.
And therefore, why should I take money out of my pocket and give it to some lazy, idle, no-good, hopeless individual lying around on the pavement with a dirty blanket over himself? And they bring dogs out, by the way.
Shouting,
they bring dogs to get sympathy.
People are starting to complain about the noise levels in the house. Could you mind not shouting?
They bring dogs to elicit sympathy from people.
Here's the problem with you and your logic, right, and your mixed-up thinking, because actually what you should be doing is admiring the people who are pretending to be beggars, because guess what they're doing? They're actually being entrepreneurs. What they've decided to do is that they can make more money by pretending to be a beggar than they can by actually going out and working for a living.
But they're con people. They're con people.
Well, you con people all your life. You con somebody on your car. You told us this week about how your father used to spend time, setting the mileometer to go backwards. You spent time telling us about how they put wood chippings into the oil to make sure that whoever was buying the car would think the car ran properly.
But that wasn't me. That was my neighbour.
No, I can't answer
family. My father was helping him do it, but I can't answer for my neighbour being.
Did you not have the guy, the uncle who had the drill that used to set all the mileage, mileometers back?
You can't.
Was that not conning people?
You can't. What's the expression? You can't answer for your fathers, or you can't carry. What is it? You can't carry. You can't fool
all the people all the time.
You can't carry the crime of your fathers, or something like that. There's a big expression.
Well, you've obviously picked up quite a few of his habits because you've been, in many ways, a criminal all of your life.
No, there's a big expression, something about, do not vest upon this man the crimes of his father. That's what it is. What are you laughing at?
The sins of the father.
The sins of the father. The sins of the father. That's it. That's all I'm saying. So I've got that absolutely right.
What about the guy you nicked the England football tickets from? He was in a coma.
I didn't. I helped him out. He was, his skull was fractured. He couldn't think straight for himself.
Right.
I was thinking for him. That was all.
All I'm saying is that you by rights, should actually be in favour of these guys that are doing this because they're actually being rather smart and they're making money out of the fact that they're using their ingenuity.
No, because the one factor I can't forgive them for is they won't get a job and work.
They've got a job. It happens to be an illegal job.
By your own admission, I'm one of the hardest working men you've ever come across in your life.
That.
Yes, you have.
I've said you're a workaholic, which is not the same thing.
No, you said I'm very hard-working man.
You work all the time because you fear spending time on your own.
No. No, I like spending time on my own. It means I haven't got to put up with half-baked jerks like you, mumbling nonsense in my ear. You know, that's something I could do without on a day off.
I've never mumbled in your ear.
And all I'm saying is,
what are you saying?
That anybody in this country can get a job. By the way, did you see the figures in the newspapers this morning?
About what?
We have 1% of the world's population.
Yeah.
We have 4% of the world's wealth in our GDP.
Okay.
But we give out 7% of all the welfare money given out in the world is given out in this country.
Is it?
Although we only got 1% of the people. I mean, to say...
I'm always very suspicious of those kind of studies.
To say the welfare system in this country is completely out of control is the understatement of the year. I mean, successive politicians over the last 30 years have used the welfare system as lazy mothers use Calpon as a liquid cosh.
Why do you use those words, liquid cosh?
A liquid cosh means that you give the baby the Calpon, it stops crying.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
You know nothing about... One, you know nothing about
I know about these things.
You don't know anything about Calpol. You can't even pronounce the way it's supposed to be said.
I know about these things. And what I'm saying is the welfare system in this country...
You don't even know what form Calpol comes in.
If you put them on welfare...
Get tablets now, so it's not liquid, is it?
It's still called the liquid cosh.
Why is it called a liquid cosh if it's not liquid?
Well, because it comes in a bottle.
Because you're an ignoramus.
What a mother does is, when she can't stand the crying
anymore...
about
mothers?
Hang on. She gets hold of the baby's head, tips it back, pours the Calpol down the baby's throat.
I don't think so.
What are you laughing at?
I don't think so.
What are you laughing at?
I mean,
This
what
is
sort
what
of
happens.
maniacal mother would do that?
This is what happens.
No.
That's why it's called the liquid cosh, you oaf.
No, that's what your mother used to do with you, except it was a bottle of brandy, which is why you've become a functioning alcoholic most of your life.
I think not. And what I'm saying is the welfare system in this country is used just like that. Politicians say, we don't want the dole queues to get any longer. Don't worry about the time. We don't want the dole queues to get any longer. I tell you what, put them on welfare. Let's invent a new illness. It's called unable to work-itis.
Porky brainitis is what you're suffering from. I wish there was an illness that could take you out of here for a while and lie you down because you've been shouting for an hour. I'd like to ask you, please, if you wouldn't mind reducing the volume of your output for the next hour, and then maybe people won't be complaining for the rest of the night.
People love
Sport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics. There will, of course, be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. It is available on Android as well as iTunes. Just follow us at the Two Mics. Keep sending us in your tweets as well, and you can text us on 81089. Lots more to come. Here's one from David, who says, for many years I used to give cash to street beggars. This all stopped when I witnessed one of them stepping into a decent car and driving off into the sunset.
Exactly.
I now have a monthly direct debit with the Salvation Army who help the needy. Problem solved.
Yeah, I like the Salvation Army. They're good people. They're honest and reliable, and they have a structure, which means that the aid that you give them goes to the right people. Now, getting back to Mr. Southgate, okay.
Yes.
I would rather have John Carver in charge of this team than Gareth Southgate.
John Carver?
Yeah, the stand-in...
The former Newcastle manager. Who's currently out of a job.
Would
you like to see John Carver as a pundit on television?
No. What I would say to you is this. You're going to say that's a ridiculous statement. What I'm saying to you is this. Gareth Southgate has completely brushed aside the defeat that he's imposed upon the country tonight, with us losing 1-0 to the Portuguese under-21s. Completely brushed it aside. I've seen this happen in tournaments before. Don't worry, people lose the first match. We won't let it affect us. Defeat brings misery, but it doesn't have to be like that. You know, they shouldn't be seen to be miserable because they lost a game. Well, at least John Carver knows how to cope with defeat.
Well, he only won like 2 games.
I know, but he knows how to cope with defeat, and he comes up onto the television after one and says, I'm appalled, I'm miserable, I'm downbeat because of the defeat. Gareth Southgate seems to think defeat is not a single problem in the world.
Well, I'll tell you what,
Despite the fact there's only how many teams in the tournament? 8, is it?
Well, there's a bit more than that.
No, I think it's 8. I think it's only 8.
It's more than just 2 groups, isn't it?
No, it's only 2 groups, honestly, yeah.
In that case, it's only 8 then.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line is, though, before I came in to see you tonight, I thought,
Yes.
this is a bit of a miserable start for England. Surely to heavens they could actually figure out how to win games and not going to be like last time where they lost every game and then came home early.
Yeah.
But actually, now that I'm listening to you, the more sympathy I have for Gareth Southgate and for England.
How can you have sympathy? I don't know. Playing Sweden next, who beat their opponents with 10 men.
Yeah.
And, and have now become the favourites to win the competition. We'll get hammered there. Now then, I want to read you some tweets, please, some texts.
All right.
Because you don't ever read out any that are favourable to me.
Well, I can't ever find any that are favourable to you.
So I went and got my own information machine and started to find a few.
All right.
So here we go. John says, crikey, Mike Parry is actually making sense. Southgate is the same old substandard, absolutely no hope, no clue manager. Matt says, obviously old MG is only worried that if Porky gets sent home because of wearing his short shorts, the show would collapse without his leadership, OK?
Yeah.
And Rowan says, had to turn the radio down already. He says, 10 minutes into the show, I knew it was going to be a long night.
How's that in favour of you, then?
Well, because it means keep up the campaign of the pursuit of excellence, which is what I'm all about.
Well,
okay?
how about this one from Brian in Islington, who says, Dear Mr Graham, Porky wearing shorts, and after all his tales of criminal misdemeanours, how long will it be until he hears the Sweeney catchphase, put your trousers on, you're nicked?
Put your trousers on, son, you're nicked. We're the Sweeney, and we haven't had any tea. Yeah, that's great. There's only one record ever that mentioned the Sweeney.
Was there?
Did you know that?
Uh-huh. It was a Squeeze song, wasn't it?
The Sweeney's doing 90 because they got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
They nick a pair of villains in a shed up at Heathrow.
Very well remembered. What's the name of the song?
Cool for Cats.
Well done.
Yeah.
Do you know I've got a 12-inch single version of that?
Have
It's
you?
pink vinyl.
Well, I think that's brilliant. I think that's one of the great songs of my sort of emerging youth.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
Tremendous. We were quite old by the time that came out. How about this from David? This, I
Right.
think, is the text not only of the night,
Right.
but of the entire week. Right?
Okay.
Porky was well at home at the Rugby World Cup finals. He went to a prestigious public school, regards council tenants as scum, is a millionaire and lives in a penthouse.
Good
All his
God.
nonsense about Everton, the Gladys Street End, Dixie Dean, etc., is an illusion in his warped mind. Deep down, he is a Harlequins fan, spending his time waffling on about the bars, share prices, the state of the country, national service, and where he can make his next buck.
Yeah, but I'm sorry.
Totally got you in one.
I really resent you telling people I've described those who live in council houses as scum. That's an absolutely untruthful thing to say, to try and turn the audience against me. I have massive respect for people.
This is from a member of the audience.
I have a massive respect for people who live in council houses. You know why? Because
why'd you call them scum then?
I'd never called them scum in my life. I resent that dreadfully, and I'm going to make you apologise, or my lawyers will be on the case. I feel that strongly about it. I have massive respect for people who live in council houses because they didn't have the benefits of starting halfway up the greasy pole or even at the top.
Yeah.
They've had to start at the bottom, and most of them have really worked very, very hard to improve their situations. They're aspirational. They've probably bought their house by now.
Yeah, very
I have
possibly.
lots of respect for these people.
Yeah, you like people who buy their houses, but you don't like people who live in council houses. Now, let's take a call. Nigel is in Maidstone. Hello, Nigel.
Oh, hi, Mike.
All right, it says here your girlfriend's a beggar, Nigel.
Yes, I've been seeing this girl for about 2 weeks. I met her in Maidstone. I didn't know at the time that she was... she's actually homeless, but she has to beg for money to get money to pay the electric bills and things.
Well, how does she have an electric bill if she's homeless?
Yeah.
Well, no, she has to... Well, she's not completely homeless, but she does have to beg for money.
Well,
why
it's a
doesn't
bit
she...
like not being completely pregnant, really, isn't it?
Yeah, she's not giving... I mean, listen, if she's
difficult situation, really.
Well, if she's in that situation, she must surely know how to rewire a lamppost and get free electricity from the lamppost. Yeah.
But anyway, the point is that she relies on me to give her a few quid every other day. Or
all right.
something,
Now let's get the relationship right, Nigel, please, because this can't be true. You've got a girlfriend who's homeless. Why doesn't she come and live with you?
Oh, because me mum, because the council won't allow us to have anyone in my particular house. The council won't.
Well, if she shares your bedroom, if you're boyfriend and girlfriend, what's wrong with that?
Well, I'm working on it with Mum. You know, I've tried to persuade Mum to let me have her come here.
And is your mother used to you bringing home homeless beggars to,
she's used to me bringing her own different girls anyway.
Oh, really? But they're not all homeless beggars then? You don't have a pension? You don't go up and down like Skid Pan Alley and just pick all these birds who are destitute?
I feel very sorry for her, though. I do.
Yeah, well, I feel quite sorry for you, Nigel. But thank you very much indeed for the call.
Yes.
How bizarre. What a strange way to live.
I know, and to be perfectly honest, to say you feel sorry for people that are homeless is, as I've already said and pointed out, not a good way to to convince them or persuade them to try harder in life.
Now, you talk about getting electricity out of a lamppost.
Yes.
You know, when I lived in New York on East 30th Street, you know, that apartment that you lived in briefly after I came back to this country, there was a time, one summer, where at the end of the street, just on the corner of East 30th and 2nd Avenue, there was a family of, not a family, but it was a group of homeless people, about 5 of them, and they had a couch on the street, and they used to sit on the couch on the street. One of them would sit next to the couch. He was in a wheelchair, and they had a television which was plugged into the lamppost. And they literally, because it was so warm, you know, and it didn't rain very much in Manhattan in those days, you know, they would literally sit there night after night watching TV on the street. It was the most ridiculous thing you'd ever seen.
And that was their home?
That was where they lived, yeah.
Where did they sleep?
They slept there as well.
What, like on the couch, on the floor?
Yeah, on the couch, on you know, various doorways around the place.
And all that kind of...
But their evening's entertainment, as I would sort of come home at night and I'd walk past them, they were sitting there like watching the Tonight Show.
And they stole the electricity from the lamppost.
Yeah, they had it somehow plugged in.
I mean, didn't any of the mayor's people come along and say you shouldn't be doing this?
No, because in those days it was when Dinkins was in charge. I think you'd already gone back to England. It was a terrible street problem because Reagan had closed down all the mental hospitals basically.
Yeah, that's right.
And so instead of being in Bellevue, they were all out on the streets. I kicked them off the street in the end, as to be said.
Yeah, well, I don't blame you. Funnily enough, I used to give unused pizza to the homeless people.
Unused?
Yeah, around 34th Street.
How do you mean unused pizza?
Well, because...
What's unused pizza?
Well, in a wealthy society, you know, sometimes after we'd been out for the day, like Jane used to go to the beach and I'd go out and meet the boys for a few drinks and all that.
Well, you never went to the beach with her?
No, I can't stand the beach. It's too hot. She used to go to Coney Island.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine that for a day. And what they used to do is, by the way, you know, in America, certainly at Coney Island anyway, all alcohol is banned on the beach.
Is it?
Yeah, but it doesn't make any difference. What people do is they take bottles of, like, soda water and lemonade, but they're full of vodka.
Yeah, right.
And the other thing they do is everybody on the beach seems to snort cocaine.
Really?
So by the time you see a girlfriend coming back from Coney... from Coney Island after 10 hours on the beach...
No, I think it would be a bit difficult to snort cocaine on the beach,
absolutely bladdered on vodka, you know, like litre bottles of vodka dressed up as lemonade.
Right.
And... I've been snorting cocaine all day. And the eyes, like, were going in 2 different directions, you know.
You know she was trying to dull the pain for the meeting of meeting you later.
I don't know, but over dinner, you know, you couldn't get any sense out of her at all, you know, and she was bouncing off the ceiling and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, point of the story is...
It was a bit mad in the 80s.
Yeah, it was. That sometimes what we do is we just order some pizza at home, you know, and particularly if there was an English programme on the TV, which I insisted we must never miss.
Right.
In fact, the most...
like Coronation Street.
Well, they didn't show Coro.
People are still talking about that from last night.
What's that?
Your amazing kind of rendition of what was going to happen to Tracy.
Yeah, well, I know,
get back into it.
I know, but it's misinterpreted, wasn't it? You know exactly what I was saying. No, the one I used to really like was, although it wasn't an English show, it starred an English actress, and that was Murder, She Wrote.
Oh, yeah.
With
Angela Lansbury.
who's very English, you know what I mean? I wouldn't miss an episode of that. So if that was on, we'd just order the pizza in. So because I have, like, weird tastes, I never wanted, you know, I could never make mind up. So I'd order, like, a mushroom pizza, and then I'd have a ham and pineapple pizza, and I'd have a straightforward pizza.
Right.
But I never ate it all, obviously. So what was left, I used to go out late at night in these summer nights and just give it to the homeless guys sitting in the...
and were they grateful for that?
Yeah, very grateful. Used to chase me down the street like I was the Pied Piper of Hamelin, giving out... slices of pizza. Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Tremendous.
But anyway...
well, we haven't got any time now for another anecdote. You just have to wait. Look at the time.
But we weren't even talking about that. We were talking about something else.
I don't know what we were talking about.
Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to talk about next.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to... How to check out your new boyfriend or girlfriend on a new app.
Okay.
Because we've just talked to the guy who's got a homeless girlfriend. Yeah. He could avoid that, and I'm going to tell him how to next.
Okay. All right. Excellent stuff. Here's one from somebody called TJ and Carl saying that they're listening to In the Van at work, loving your show. We're just missing our good friend Andy. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I did promise to read it out. We've got loads more to come. This is Talk Sport. I know you'll never be upset as long as we keep playing Beatles music throughout the course of the show. I thought I saw a piece actually earlier on yesterday I should say, in the Telegraph, you will correct me if I'm wrong, in which it said that this week 50 years ago was when Yesterday was first written.
Was that right?
The song that was famously, obviously, called Scrambled Eggs.
That's right,
first, incarnation.
Yeah.
So I think it was this week 50 years ago. Would that be right?
To be honest, I'm not arguing with you. It sounds about right. Yeah. Paul McCartney was 73 yesterday, by the way.
Yes, he was celebrating his birthday.
So he would have been 23 when he wrote it, which sounds about right.
Yeah.
It was one of my least favourite Beatles songs anyway.
What, Yesterday?
Oh, yeah. I
really liked Yesterday.
It's a dreadful song. And if you ask John Lennon said it nearly broke up the Beatles anyway. John Lennon insisted, I don't want that record on Help. right?
It's the John Lennon alarm. We haven't heard that all week.
Yeah, well, that's okay, because what he said, he called it Paul's granny music, and he said, look, that's not a Beatles song, that's some ballad that you've written, I'm not having that on the... And he threatened to walk out the group if it went on the LP, but anyway, Brian Epstein talked him round, and so it went on. Now, listen, the reason we played that record is I came across some information today, very, very interesting. This woman has invented this new app, right? And I wasn't even sure what an app was, actually, until you told me.
Surely.
Well, I do now. It's an application, isn't it, or something? An appliance?
Well, it's what you have. Yeah, it's an application. It's what you have on those little square things on your information device.
Yes.
Those are apps.
Yes.
It enables you to look at news, it enables you to look at Google, whatever.
Yes, I understand that now. But anyway, the point of this is that, and I think this has to be amongst a fairly select group of people, like the hoi polloi and all that.
Yeah.
If you suddenly meet a new guy, right, and so it's mostly aimed at women, but it's now going to be adapted for men as well.
Yeah.
So you meet a new girl in a certain circle of friends. When I say certain circle of friends, say for instance we're doing like Sloane Rangers.
Yeah.
Or
say you went to, say, I don't know, a rugby match at the weekend and you ran into somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or it might simply be at Durham University or something like that. Okay. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So it can be localised and all that.
Yeah.
So you meet a bloke, you find out what his name is, you then go on this app, and that app has reports from 20 women who've previously either gone out with this guy...
like a review or something?
Absolutely.
Right.
Has either gone out with this guy or has grown up with him or knew him at school or something like that.
So you have to have his name, presumably, then.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's what I'm saying, so your name. And so you meet the guy first time, you have a drink with him, you go home, you get on your laptop or on your information device, you check this guy out, and then you are literally...
It's quite a good idea, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's such a good idea. You think, why did nobody think of it before? But apparently it's making this woman who's thought about it a millionaire. And the app is called Lulu.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, it's a popular name, I suppose. Lulu was the great teenage pop star of the 60s.
Is it an American app or is it a British app?
It has a big hit in the US. It's been downloaded 5 million times since its launch 2 years ago, and now is growing in popularity every day. And the founder is a woman aged 33 called Alexandra Chong. And now it's speculated that one of the massive world computer companies like Google or something will buy this out for like
it's
10
one of those
million
stories
quid.
When you read it, you go, it's whatever you read. I mean, like there was the one of the kid who invented something in his bedroom when he was 17 and sold it for something like 12 million.
That's
quid
right.
to Apple.
Exactly.
So you always, when you do that, when you read those stories, you always think, why don't I think of that?
Yes. Now the point is, the reason I mention this is that this might start the race for the FMP, which I've gone very quiet about over the last 2 or 3 years.
You have gone very quiet about
the FMP
well,
being
you more or less admitted, I thought, that you were no longer in that particular market.
I think that's probably right. The first Mrs. Parry situation, I think, probably now has had its day.
Yeah.
But you will find that of the dozens, of the scores of women I've known throughout my life.
Yes.
Throughout my life.
Yes. No, I'm aware. Listen, I'm not one of those people who criticises you for not knowing women. I know that you've had lots of women in your life.
Yeah.
It's just your moral kind of compass is slightly missing on
Let me tell you this. I have never, ever yet come across a woman who's had a bad thing to say about me.
Really?
So on this basis, if you see what I mean... No, you don't.
I do indeed.
That's rubbish.
Most of them work for you, to be fair.
No. So on this basis, if I suddenly took a lady out for dinner, say next week, had a very pleasant evening, and I walked her home, kissed her on the cheek at her doorstep, and gave her a red rose to take to,
Where'd the red rose come from?
Well, I'd have found it somewhere along the way. I'd have been
stolen it from somebody's garden.
No. I'd have been inventive. And then she gets in home, and this warm glow is about her because.
And then she gets on Lulu.
That's right. And she tries to find out, things about. All she'd get is very positive reports.
Really?
Very positive.
Right.
Indeed. Now that might cause.
It depends how far back they go, doesn't it? I mean, she might find nothing at all.
No, I don't think so. I think women are growingly finding this as how women sort of bond together against males, so to speak. And I think
is that what you think they do?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Like men,
It's a bit sexist.
Well, it's true. Men all stick together, don't they? And that kind of stuff.
No, they don't.
And so what I'm saying is, I believe that this Lulu thing will eventually become a library, literally a library, of look up what your man's all about. So I think, women will, when they've got nothing to do one evening, think, I think I'll put a few comments on about Bill, the guy I knew 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I'll put a few comments on about Harry.
Are you suggesting they might not always be truthful?
No, I'm suggesting that they will be, but I'm suggesting women love to talk, like men love to talk, because we're human beings and we love to communicate, and they will start finding more information. But I'm saying that all information about me will be positive. Unlike yourself.
I would say
unlike yourself.
No, hang on. Oh, look, Tiger's playing another shot from somewhere off the course.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, I don't think I've seen him standing on any grass now for ages. Oh, he's still in the mire.
Gone into another bunker.
Unbelievable.
Oh, dear. That's not looking good.
That doesn't look good at all.
But what I'm saying is, and I'm not being personal here, Mike, but
no, of course.
You've had so many dodgy relationships in so many difficult situations.
Well, it depends how you describe dodgy.
An awful lot of women walking the globe today.
Yeah.
Feel let down by you. Whereas very few women...
I don't think that's true, actually.
Very few women feel let down by me. I've never let a woman down in my life.
Well, that's because you've never given anything of yourself.
I have.
You don't know what love is. You've told me before you've never been in love.
No, I've never said
You haven't been in love.
I've never said
You have said you haven't... Well, who were you in love with then?
Well, that's getting rather personal now, isn't it?
You're getting... Oh, you don't want me to get personal
well,
after you've spent about...
I don't think we should.
The best part of the last 7 years on radio being personal.
Excuse me.
Yeah, you should be coughing.
No, that's the
only 1/3 of your heart works.
Well, thank you very much for pointing that out. I have to be very careful.
You haven't said that much this week, actually.
Sorry?
You haven't said much this week about your heart.
Excuse me. Well, I was a bit shaken.
It'd be great if one day, you know, and I don't wish any ill on you, obviously.
No,
it's a bit like when you say, you know, I don't mean any disrespect. I think it would be very fitting if you just actually dropped dead while I was talking to you.
In the studio?
Yeah.
Well, it might be fitting, but it would disappoint an awful lot of people out there.
It would definitely make clips of the week, don't you think?
Well, it'd certainly make clips of the week. That's absolutely right. But and at least it wouldn't be in Venice, where my mate had to be taken off her ship.
I don't know why you're
terrible.
I don't know why you're so disturbed.
Oh, I'm shaken up by it.
Everybody dies somewhere.
No, I'm shaken up by it.
Venice is not the worst place you could die. I mean, you could have died in some godforsaken part of the world where you couldn't even get an ambulance to.
But you know, when I was all day today, I've been thinking back to the things we used to get up to and the things we used to do.
This has really troubled you, hasn't it?
Well, it is disturbing me. And now his body's got to be flown back from a mortuary in Venice for a funeral. And the irony of it is, his cremation will take place at the same crematorium where my dad was cremated 32 years ago.
Oh, so it's brought back all sorts of memories then.
Absolutely. And my dad knew him very well.
Yeah.
You know, my dad welcomed him into our home.
You're going to have to go, aren't you? You're going to have to go.
I'm going to have to sort something out.
You're going to have to go.
I don't know what to do.
I think you should go.
And by the way, the drinks thing afterwards is so traditional.
Yeah.
It's at the British Legion.
Oh, is it? Right.
Yeah, and lots of British Legions are closed down, you know, because nobody uses them anymore. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
No, the British Legion is a staple part of the working man of Britain's
I don't think I've ever been inside a British
facility.
Legion.
Oh, I've been in loads. I've been in loads of British Legions. And, I mean, on Coronation Street, it used to be Jack's favourite drinking hole, you know, down the Legion with the Daily Mirror to look at the horses.
What, rather than the Rover's Return?
Yeah, you'd always go down the Legion, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So, anyway, I don't know how we got onto that. What I'm saying is, this new app called Lulu puts...
well, you were attempting to try and make out... You found another story which you found of interest to the general public, but actually what it was just another kind of method for you to use it against me.
Well, Mike,
that was why you brought it up. That's why you brought it up.
You have to accept, and you haven't even argued when I put the point to you a few minutes ago, there are a lot of women stalking this globe who don't have very nice things to say about you
that's not
because your behaviour towards a lot of women in your life has been despicable in the sense that you weren't personally abusive to them, but going along and courting other women, going around courting other women when you're supposed to be in a relationship is actually very ungentlemanly, and it's very ungentlemanly. And what are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at the ridiculous double standards that you operate.
And it will not.
And you think that you're some kind of arbiter of moral high authority.
It will not bring you
when
very
you've done
many.
Nothing, when you've done nothing but slide around all of your life.
It will not.
Cheating people, you know, robbing people, basically betraying people, clambering over them to get better jobs and positions, and then slagging them off if they got better jobs than you. Shocking.
I don't know what you're talking about. You won't get many favourable reviews. That's the point.
Yeah, well, I'm not all about favourable reviews, unlike you. Now, how about this from Gareth? I finally found this tweet. I got this earlier. Love the show, Mike. Can you give me and my future wife a shout-out on your show? Getting married on Saturday, Gaz and Claire.
Oh, yeah?
And see, you know, what you should do is offer them some encouragement that actually their marriage is actually going to be something
Gaz
worth doing.
and Claire, it's the start of a brand new life. It is an exciting, very, very exciting new era for both of you. Grasp the moment, have a fantastic day, and remember, this is the start of the rest of your life. And
if
your
you see
ambitions...
and if you see a guy
standing
around in the church courtyard or in the graveyard looking at you, just remember, Porky likes to go to people's weddings and watch them.
And there is nothing you cannot achieve together. You are a stronger unit.
Have you gone mad?
No, I'm just telling them, marriage is a great thing.
Well,
if you get the right person at the right time, it's a great thing. Just try and make it last.
Yeah, well, as long as you don't go anywhere near it, it'll be fine. This is Talk Sports. Tiger Woods has just hit one shot from one side of the bunker to another.
Excellent.
We'll bring you up to date with all of that and the rest of the golf coming very shortly right here on Talk Sport.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Oh, here's a chance for Bernardo Silva. He's hit the post, ricochet to safety. João Mario puts it in. Portugal lead, almost out of nothing. So it broke towards the edge of the penalty area. It's a little flick round the corner. Bernardo Silva had a shot which came back off the post. That was a bad miss. But all the luck going Portugal's way as it fell to one of their players inside the penalty area. João Mario tapping it into the net. And it's England 0, Portugal 1.
This is TalkSport Extra Time. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. There will be a Porky quiz, of course, coming up in the next hour of the show. And the subject tonight is the Sweeney, Mr. Parry's other favourite TV show.
I am very, very confident, by the way. Very confident.
What,
indeed.
6 out of 10-ish confident?
8 out of 10-ish, I would say.
Well, I'd have to say I've looked at the questions and they're not that difficult, so I think you might not do too badly, actually. But let's find out about what John Curtis thought. He's a former England international, played at under-20 level. Last night, of course, the England under-21s, who were thought to be, perhaps in with a pretty good chance of winning the tournament, lost to Portugal by 1-0. You think, Mr. Parry, it's all down to Gareth Southgate.
I'm sorry, it's got to be.
Let's find out what John has to say. John, very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Morning, guys. How are we doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Now, Mr. Parry here has been very hard on poor old Gareth Southgate, saying that, despite the fact that he was being given great plaudits for taking this team, scoring a goal in every game for the last 18 games. People were starting to talk about maybe England got a chance of winning it. He says that unlike Gareth Southgate's belief that this is just a bit of a hiccup, this is yet more proof that England can't sort of go to a tournament and play tournament football.
Well, I know Mike can be a little bit harsh on the teams there, but I think considering that all the hoo-ha there was about not taking the eligible players before the tournament, considering that the guys had the two of the senior players, John Stones there and Berino from West Brom, unfortunately missing out at the last minute. I think they performed reasonably well. It's a top team, Portugal, to play against. I think somebody said 6 full internationals in their under-21 squad. Mm-hmm. So they are one of the strongest teams in the entire tournament. It's a very tight tournament with only the 8 sides in it. And with 6 full internationals, it was always going to be a tough task, particularly with the 2 boys missing out there.
Yeah, I mean, John, it's not so much the fact that we lost. And by the way, you said Portugal are a very good team. We beat them 3-1 in a friendly, didn't we, about 3 months ago? So we thought we had the drop on them. But it's not just the fact that we've lost in our opening game. I'm just dismayed by the reaction of the manager, Gareth Southgate. He says things like, defeat often brings misery, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way. These boys think that maybe they should be seen to be miserable because they lost, but it doesn't have to be that way. Well, I'm sorry, but that's taking away the essence of the pursuit of excellence. Winning, success feels good, and he's telling them don't feel bad about defeat. That, to me, is the wrong message.
Well, we know as well as anybody that in tournament football, it's important not to lose your first game, and they've done that this evening. But it's not impossible. A good result against the Swedes and a tough game against the Italians as well. And anything is possible. Got to finish second in the table to get into that semi-final stage. It can still be done. It's going to be tough, don't get me wrong. Taking a point from this evening would have made it an awful lot easier for the guys. But I think we have to remain positive, and the manager's job is to keep the boys positive as well. And he's going to obviously be as upbeat as he possibly can and take the positives out of it. Because the last thing we want to do is go into the Sweden game with a bunch of guys who are disheartened and demoralised. That's not what we need.
But there is a problem, isn't there, with whether it's true or not, the perception of England in tournament football. Even though going to this World Cup in Brazil a year ago, nobody really, I mean, even the fans' expectation wasn't particularly high, but there was still an awful lot of disappointment when England ended up getting the results that they did and dropping out of the tournament as early as they did. Is there a different pressure? I know you played under 20 level probably quite some time ago, but I mean, is there a different pressure if it's not, I didn't mean that in a bad way, but, you know, is there a different pressure when you're playing under 21 or under 20 level, or is there less pressure? What's it like?
I think it's definitely less pressure. I think that playing in the under 21s is definitely less pressure than the national team. When you play in the national team, the whole spotlight, the whole national media is on you, and it's certainly less so with the under 21s, particularly because not in this tournament, but in general, the under 21s play before the national team, and it's kind of like the undercard in boxing terminology, I suppose. So yeah, consider a lot less pressure. But I think of the boys in this squad now. Think of Harry Kane and the boys who have done well in the Premier League this season, Danny Ings as well. You look at those boys and think there is enormous amount of pressure on those guys to perform, maybe more so than the boys that aren't so much household names. So as a country, we really do need those guys firing. So I think it would be individuals would be feeling the pressure rather than as a team pressure. I think in general there aren't that many, superstars in this under 21 squad, because most of them, have chosen or the manager's chosen not to take them to the tournament, or the clubs have chosen not to take them to the tournament. So, yes, hugely different amount of pressure.
Yeah, I don't know why we stick with the system we have now, John. You know, the idea that, well, you bring up young players, they play under 17, under 18, under 19, under 21, and then emerge into the full England's national team. That very, very rarely happens. Very rarely. How many players fall by the wayside during that process? Lots of them. 9 out of 10 of them.
But also it's the issue not that they leap into the senior squad too early.
Well, no, I don't think it is that they I mean, John Stones was supposed to be, the bedrock of the under-21. He was injured, unfortunately, didn't play tonight. But he is better as a player than any of the defenders who blundered against Slovenia when we nearly blew the game. So I just don't think the system works, John. I think we've got to look for some other way of doing it.
I think that the key is, and what the FA tried to do, I think, with trying to blood these youngsters in the youth squads coming up, is to try and give them international experience. You saw what the Spanish did. They played the famous squad that's won the World Cup and the European Championships. They played together as youth internationals.
Well, so did the Germans, of course.
Coming through.
So did the Germans in the last World Cup winning team, yeah.
Yeah, shocking state of affairs. I mean, we're going to be arguing about this, I guess, for a long time. John,
you're right.
We've got to leave it there. Appreciate your time.
John.
Thanks very much indeed. John Curtis is down in Australia now.
John Curtis, famous name Curtis in football, really. Yeah. Do you remember Coventry and their FA Cup winning year?
Oh, yes, I do, yeah. I do remember that.
What was the first name of the Curtis involved?
Sky Blues.
Sky Blues, the manager, his name was Curtis. Was it Sam Curtis?
Wasn't Tony Curtis,
Wasn't Tony Curtis.
He was in the Persuaders.
Yeah. It wasn't John Curtis.
Yeah.
It was Curtis, though, because I see him now.
Curtis Mayfield.
And he had a crew cut, crew cut haircut, and I see him now.
I can see a lot of the members of the team actually running around in that Sky Blues.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you what's just happened over at Chambers Bay.
Okay,
we saw Tiger jumping about from one end of the bunker to the other end of the bunker. He has just taken a double bogey at that hole after missing a short putt. Sorry, missed a short putt for double bogey. And guess what happened?
No.
And this is what will lead people to say, maybe this is now time for Tiger Woods to walk away.
Yeah.
Somebody in the crowd around the green shouted out, "Oh my God, what are you doing?"
Golly.
I mean, that's unheard of on a golf course, right? He's now 10 over par. Only Rich Barbarian Jr.'s score of 13 over is worse today. So at the moment...
What hole's he on now?
I think he's currently on the back 9, so I think he's around about 14, 13, something like that.
And he's 10 over?
He's 10 over par. There's only one score at the moment worse than his.
But hang on, so he's on 80 at the moment then, if he finishes 10 over.
Yeah.
Because it's 70, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that still wouldn't be his worst, because that was 85 3 weeks ago.
Well, it wouldn't be his worst, but it would be the second worst score on this particular opening day of the US Open.
This is becoming embarrassing.
But what I'm saying is when people start shouting from the gallery, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" That's bound to have an effect on him, surely.
Well, I just don't know what he's up to. He talks big at the start, saying, "There's another major left in me. I can find it and all that." But now, how can a golfer become so bad after being so good?
Well, the problem about golf is, and this is one of the things my father explained to me, he knew about golf from a very early age.
Right.
His brother was a professional. He'd been playing golf since he could walk.
Right.
And, in Scotland, it's like the national pastime.
Okay.
And he said to me, when he was alive and Tiger Woods was doing very well, he said, the thing about golf is that nobody can stay at the top for as long as Tiger Woods would have hoped to stay at the top, because simply your body changes. I mean, he got some injuries, which meant that his particular very, very kind of athletic swing could never really be repeated.
Well,
and that was the beginning of it all.
Yeah.
And then he tried to alter his swing, and then he tried to mess around. And a lot of that golf is just about... And if you're standing on the first tee and you think you can wallop the ball 350 yards down the middle...
Which you can.
And you can, you just do it.
Yeah.
But if you start getting doubts on the tee, going, well, the thing is, the last time I stood up here, I hit it a bit to the right and it went in the water. Suddenly, it's all gone.
Or my back might go if I put it 365
as soon
yards
as there
down
is
the,
any kind of
down
doubt,
the fairway.
Any kind of doubt. Here's the other interesting thing about this course, right?
Yes.
It's right next to the railway line, and
That's
they run
right.
these massive trains. The really long trains.
Yeah.
So it's not just a train going past. It's a train going past for about 15 minutes.
Yes.
Which might put people off.
I tell you what, that is a very unusual feature of a golf club.
Isn't it? I mean,
I've
there's
seen that
quite a few
before
courses
anywhere in the world.
There's a lot of courses in Scotland that are right by railway tracks.
Yeah.
But the trains only take 2 minutes to go by.
Yeah, and it's usually like the Royal Scot or something like that.
Well,
chugging
no, it's
past,
not even these suburban trains. But the course is turning nasty now, apparently, as we're hearing as well.
What does that mean?
Because it means that lots of players are finding themselves off the fairways. Yeah. They're not working out the greens very well.
Is that because the weather's changing?
It's getting a bit windier, and a lot of their balls are plugging in the bunkers. So they're harder to get out. Yeah, yeah. So it's fascinating.
What
stuff.
you mean? So the plugging effect is that only the
so you can only see the top half of the ball.
No, not even the top half. Sometimes you only see the top third of the ball.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's even harder.
Sometimes.
Mind you, I'm fantastic with the sand wedge.
No, you're not.
I am.
Don't give me all
I
that
am.
rubbish.
I'm telling you,
You're not a
I've never
proper
failed.
golfer.
I can get a ball out of a bunker when the face of the bunker is like the side of the Eiger.
You can't play golf.
I can.
No, you can't.
Oh, rubbish.
One day I'll take you to a proper golf course.
Rubbish. You know full well.
And we'll shoot a little video.
I might be a little bit out of practice with my Callaways, the ones that were tailor-made for me by the Callaway International Golf Company. No. The set that is matched to my physique.
Yeah, child set.
Don't be ridiculous. I'm not even going to react to that stupid nonsense.
You can't play golf. Of course, why you're bothering to try and.
Really?
So why did this myth?
So why did the Callaway people make me an honorary set of golf clubs then if I can't play golf?
Because you probably begged them to.
Oh, rubbish! Utter nonsense. I had to go around begging people. We've done beggars tonight. Let's move on.
This is Talks About You by CeeLo Green.
CeeLo Green.
CeeLo Green. Yeah, he's a great singer, but there's another version of it which doesn't say. It also starts with F, but it's not Forget.
And what is that? What is that song about?
Well, it's about a guy who's not very happy with his girlfriend.
Right.
Basically.
Why are they playing that then?
I don't know.
Well, you don't have any. I mean,
I don't know. They don't play music all the time at my behest. They just they have some creativity.
No, we should have some influence on the atmospherics, and that's part of the
Well, think about the name of the song, right? It's called Forget You.
Yeah, Forget You. Yeah.
So what does Forget make you think about?
Well,
you've forgotten, haven't you?
No, what Forget makes me think about is this a deep, insightful sort of moody type thing we're going to talk about?
Really have lost
I want to talk to you about eating cakes, because you eat loads of cakes, right?
Yeah. I don't actually eat loads of cakes.
Well, biscuits.
I don't eat many biscuits either.
I've seen you in here. Whenever somebody in the production team brings in a bit of lemon drizzle cake.
The production team?
Yeah.
Hordes of them.
Brings in the lemon drizzle cake, you have about 3 slices.
I sometimes have some cake.
Yes, that's right. Yes, yeah. And biscuits.
Did you see me eating any cake tonight?
No, but packets of biscuits are
always... Did you eat any cake last night?
Yes.
Did you?
Yes, biscuits. It was ginger biscuits last night, wasn't it?
No, that was on Monday night.
Well, there you go, you see. I knew it was...
You see, the problem with you is you've got no memory.
No, the problem with you is that you try to split hairs to try and water down your inadequacies.
No, I just correct you when
you've got loads of inadequacies.
Untruths.
Now, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Trans fats are in biscuits, okay?
Yeah.
Do you know what they are?
Yeah, they're very unhealthy.
That's right, and they're in fast food.
Yeah, I know that.
And if you eat
I'm not the one that eats fast food. You eat fast food.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you do.
What fast
You're always
food
eating
do I
fish and chips from a pub. That's fast food.
No, it's not.
You think that's good food?
It's cooked food.
Well, fast food isn't cooked food.
No, what I'm saying is...
Do you think there's any trans fats in a Wetherspoon's portion of fish and chips?
No.
Deep fried?
No.
You don't think there is?
No, I don't.
Really?
Because what fast food, the definition of fast food is like 2,000 burgers delivered to the one shop, and then they're frozen, and then they just, change them into edible burgers. That's what it is. Now, let me show you this, right? Eating large doses of the trans fats reduces the flow of blood to the brain, can damage recall, even in young adults.
Yes.
And this is all done at the University of California in San Diego.
So what are you saying? It's somehow if you eat too many trans fats, that it's bad for your memory?
Yeah, it's very bad for your memory. So what I'm saying, it's not just obesity that follows from eating lots of cakes and biscuits.
I think you'll find that the memory situation on this show, apart from the amazing memory you've got for things that happened 40 years ago, my memory is better than yours.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, rubbish.
Well, why do you think we played that song a moment ago?
Well, I've never heard that song before, so I can't remember something I haven't heard.
You remember what it's called, don't you?
That's like some guy from Japan coming in here, reading the Lord's Prayer in Japanese to me, and saying, "Do you remember that?" No, because I've never heard it before. So that's a stupid argument.
Well, he wasn't singing in Japanese, was he?
No, he was singing in English.
You asked me why they were playing that song.
Yeah, but I've never heard the song before.
Yeah, but you know now what it was called. Do you remember what it's called?
It's called Food or something, wasn't it?
So you don't remember the name of the song?
Well, I'm not interested.
Your short-term memory is gone.
If I'm not interested, I don't register it in my brain.
Well, maybe you're eating too many trans fats.
Stop talking trivia.
No, I'm trying to point out that yours is the memory that isn't actually working.
Now, I have a campaign about obesity, right?
Yes.
We know about this, and this is part of the campaign. And I'm going to keep going to this campaign, otherwise we're all going to die. So what I'm saying is, you've got the report from the University of California saying trans fats are going to hit your memory.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's the old campaign siren. Good.
Slightly slow off the mark.
Right.
That's quick off the mark as you are.
No, it says here, those eating the most trans... Thank you. Those eating the most trans fats...
Don't upset him. He's already upset.
28 grams a day, scored significantly lower than the average. Not enough women volunteered for the study to be statistically significant. Right. They were frightened of exposing the fact that they were overweight.
So it's an insignificant study as far as women are concerned.
So trans fats curb the body's production...
Well, hang on a second. Well, how much is 28 grams of trans fat? I mean, what do you have to eat to take that in?
Well, it's a lot.
Well, I know it's a lot, but I mean, like what? Is it one hamburger? Is it one piece of cake? What is it?
It's about 4 pieces of cake.
Also, trans fats are not in cake that you make, for example, at home, which I make a lot. I mean, my kids make cake, and I eat their cake.
So where did the trans fats suddenly come from, then? In manufactured cakes?
Well, trans fats, I would imagine, are in manufactured cakes, because
of course a cake's manufactured at home. It's cooked in an oven, it's manufactured.
No.
Ridiculous.
I'm talking about if you buy cakes from a shop, they're more likely to have more fat in them.
Well, they're baked in an oven like your home-baked cake is.
No, I know, but the ingredients of mass-produced food, this is a bit that you don't get. The ingredients of mass-produced food, for example, if you were to go to your local supermarket and buy one of those ready meals, which is, say, macaroni and cheese, right?
I wouldn't.
Or a shepherd's pie or something like that.
Shepherd's pie,
whatever you buy that is ready-made in one of those little packages is far more unhealthy for you than if you cooked it for yourself. Because when you cook it for yourself, you can be much more careful about what you use to cook it with.
Yeah, I know that.
Well, so therefore, the same goes for cakes.
I cook my own spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, you take it out of a tin, you told me.
No, I don't.
You said you like spaghetti bolognese in a tin.
I didn't. I said I've occasionally had it, but I cook it fresh from spaghetti and from meat.
Fresh spaghetti?
Yeah.
What, so you use fresh pasta? Have you got a pasta machine?
No, you idiot. I get it out of a plastic bag in Tesco's, a plastic container.
Yeah, okay.
Like everybody does. Look, stop getting off the point.
I'm
I want to tell you this.
I'm trying to be precise.
Right, those eating the most trans fats, 28 grams a day, had impaired hearing. Trans fats curb the body's production of omega-3, right, omega-3 fatty acids, which are important for the health of the brain.
Omega-3 is good for you, isn't it?
It is. It curbs the production of omega-3 fatty acids, which are good for you.
Right.
Earlier studies found that the fatty acids affected people's moods, right?
Yeah.
Now, that's one part
that
of
would
it.
explain why you're so moody as well.
No. That's one part of it. Now then, I put that together with another report from America, right? This is somebody's observation in America, right? I was at a friend's house for lunch a few months ago when 4 guests arrived, an American couple and their son 8 and daughter 10, right? They were all waddlingly fat. This is an observation on what's happened in America.
Yes.
And this is what's going to come across the Atlantic. Listen to this. It's terrifying. They just had ice creams in the local park. This is the 2 children. In the hour before lunch began, the children demanded and ate 5 large chocolate rabbits, which had been brought...
How many?
5. 5 large chocolate rabbits.
Blimey.
How about that?
That's awful,
you know the ones I'm talking about, wrapped in gold paper and all that
the
kind
ones
of
they
stuff,
give you at Easter time, like lint ones, maybe.
That's right, yeah. 5 large chocolate rabbits brought for those as gift. Left alone in the kitchen and told to help themselves by their parents to a few strawberries, they gobbled the entire strawberry pudding, which had been made, OK? Intended for 12 people. They went on to eat huge quantities of barbecued meat. Their indulgent parents smiled throughout, while the English contingent watched in silent horror. Now, the conclusion to this, and this is from a food specialist who observed all this, OK?
Yeah.
The conclusion to this is, don't feel smug about being British. It's going to come here. This happens in America, and we're going to follow. The point they're making is this. that food for Americans, wealthy Americans or middle-class Americans, right, is no longer something to be ingested when you feel hungry. It is as much a part of the day to kids growing up in their teens as a cigarette is to a smoker. Do you understand what I mean?
I do.
You know, smokers have one cigarette after another because they've become addicted to smoking.
Some people do, yeah.
Millions of US children, now US teenagers, are simply addicted to eating. They just eat it because it's there.
Well, I think one of the problems is, and you'll have known this, when we first went to live in America, when effectively at the sort of start of the 80s in this country, the kind of stuff that was available and the size even of people's fridges was extraordinary. I'll never forget when I first went, the first time I really properly went to America after because I went there kind of camping trip when I was 15, right?
Yes.
Didn't really notice it. When I first really went to America when I was about 20 to go and visit my then girlfriend's family, I couldn't believe the amount of food they had in their fridge.
That's right.
You know, because I came from this very small kind of, relatively small flat in London where we had a fridge that just went underneath the general kind of kitchen cabinet, and you couldn't put loads of food in it. But you opened this thing up and they had these massive big,
that's why they got such
containers
big
of
fridges.
milk.
I know, it's
massive
unbelievable.
Great containers of juice.
Unbelievable.
Everything was supersized. Everything was huge.
It's going to happen.
And it is happening here.
It's going to happen in this country.
But I'm not quite sure how you can stop it, really.
Well, I don't think you can stop it now. 80%.
So what's your point, then?
Well, this is why I've got on a obesity campaign.
Your campaign is completely pointless.
No. Do we not realise we're sleepwalking? I mean, how many times have I had to point out to people in this country who still don't get it that all the time we are increasing the size of facilities like beds in hospitals.
But not everybody is involved in it.
Ambulances and all this. Because we're all getting bigger and fatter, and if we don't stop it, we are literally all going to eat ourselves to death. Well, why don't people understand this?
I don't know why you're so concerned about it, and if you were so concerned
you lead the way. You lead the way. You're a very casual eater.
No,
You'll
I'm
eat
not.
anything.
Absolutely
I see you in the studio eating all sorts of things.
No, you don't. What did I eat last night, since you've got Mr. Memory? Let's trust your memory now to the man who doesn't eat trans fats. What did I eat last night in here?
Okay,
what did I eat?
I'll put something to you.
No, answer the
question. Last time we did a live show,
Yeah.
or the penultimate time, the last one was in London, the one before that was in Birmingham. No, it wasn't. It was in Portsmouth.
You don't even know what you're talking about.
You sent your daughter out, the lovely Emma, to get you a takeaway meal half an hour before we went on stage.
That's right, because I hadn't eaten all day.
But, I mean, this is madness.
Well, why is it madness?
It's madness because...
Why is it madness to have dinner at 6:30 in the evening?
It's madness because what you have to do is you have to regulate your intake of food, small and often.
What, is that so I could get the perfect body like you? Are you having a laugh?
Small and often is...
Are you having a laugh?
Small and often is the clue to a nutritious, well-rounded diet.
Well, you've got a well-rounded body, but I don't think you've got a well-rounded diet,
That's
right?
all you can do.
Having fish and chips twice in the same pub in the same day, surrounded by 2 or 3 bottles of Pinot Grigio, is hardly something that I think you would recommend to anyone unless they were looking to drop dead very shortly.
You can only meet me with insults because you've got no answers.
Well, You're talking absolute cobblers.
You're an unattractive fat slob.
Yes, but not quite as unattractive as you.
Unattractive fat slobs like you are leading the world to the edge of a precipice of doom.
Yes.
And that precipice of doom is fatness killing you. And fatness is going to kill an awful lot of people. It's already killing people.
Why do you care so much about it? You don't care about people dying.
I do.
Do you?
Because my taxes are going up all the time to try and treat the sort of conditions that emerge in people who have your bodily shape.
I see.
You are more prone now to get some sort of killer disease.
When people see pictures of the two of us
when
together...
When your knees collapse under the weight of your fat body above your knees...
When people see pictures of us together, why do you think they constantly say, I don't know why Porky keeps calling you fat, because you're obviously much thinner than he is. Everyone on Twitter.
I've never heard anybody say that.
Our friend James was here last night. Why don't you read all the comments underneath the picture that he sent out last night? And you can do that when we come back from the news. And then you can find out why people think that you're such a strange and hideous shape. Whereas I actually don't look that bad.
Trying to cause a diversion again? You won't face up to the facts, Mike. You won't face up to the facts.
It's like talking to some kind of ventriloquist dummy. Has somebody got their hand up your back?
No.
You're making no sense at all.
Here, it says here, we don't have an obesity problem because we eat fresh fish from the sea and not cans. You should do more of that, Mr. Parry. That must be some guy who lives in Whitstable or something like that.
Whitstable?
Well, some sort of port up there. Pwllheli. Oh, no, that's in North Wales. Yeah. OK, right, thank you very much indeed.
What are you talking about now?
Well, what I'm saying is we'll get some comments in from people who are on my side and know exactly what I'm talking about.
That guy wasn't on your side. He told you to stop eating fish out of a can.
No.
How about this one from Geordie Jeff? If Porky's so good at golf, how come he whacked a golf ball at Mike Boville at the Open a few years ago, which was recorded live on TalkSport at the time? I believe Mr. Boville still has nightmares about it.
No, it nearly fractured his knee, actually.
Did it?
And it was a bit of a mistake because I was aiming to go straight down the fairway on a simulator, obviously, but I did something to the ball ball, it was a brilliant shot. It went off at 90 degrees to the right.
Oh, dear.
And Mike Bovell, who was...
so it went 90 degrees to the right and hit him at knee level, so it wasn't exactly a high shot then?
No, it wasn't a high shot, but it could have taken his knee off, literally.
Right.
It was, it was Mike's fault for being in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It was,
he was standing to the side. He thought you were going to hit it forward.
Yeah, well, he should have known that I'm
Is that why he had to sit in that funny chair for a few years afterwards?
I'm a very versatile golfer.
Yeah, you can't play golf. You are so deluded about so many things. I don't even know where to begin.
Don't be ridiculous.
Here's one from Roy, who says, perhaps a diet of canned lean ham, fish and chips and minced soup should be made compulsory in hospitals. Hashtag Porky's diet.
It's better than stuffing kebabs down your throat 24 hours a day.
Well, I don't do that.
No, you say you don't. I've seen you queuing up in the... What is he laughing at? What is our producer laughing at?
He's not laughing. That's the guy sitting next to you.
I can.
You lost the plot tonight.
No, I haven't lost the plot at all. I can tell you, kebabs are not good for you. I've never had a kebab. I've never had an egg, and I've never had a kebab. I never will.
You eat cake, don't you?
Sometimes, a bit of lemon drizzle.
Yeah, it's got egg in it.
Well, it's simulated egg. If
simulated
you see what I mean.
egg.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as you're only eating simulated egg, you'll be fine. Maybe I'll make you a simulated omelette sometime soon. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. The Porky quiz is coming up very shortly, and it was all about the Sweeney, of course. So you'll be hearing all kinds of shat it. I feel like saying shat it. Talk Sport Extra Time. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Just follow us at the two mics, and of course we'll tell you when it should be out. It should be out about 6 hours from now. Now, something I'd forgotten to do, Mr. Parry, which I meant to remind myself of, and I just reminded myself of, was yesterday when you were having a go at me over my use of the phrase sordid orgy.
Yes.
You admitted at one point in that conversation that you'd once been to a wife swapping party.
Well, I didn't really.
Didn't you?
No.
Well, you did.
No, I sort of said that, well, there was one time we were in Manchester, Greater Manchester, actually. It was Sale, where I used to live when I was working for the Daily Express in Manchester. And myself and two other young reporters, both of whom are known to you.
Are they? Give me their names.
No, it's Peter Kent and Roger Taverner.
Okay.
And we were all together on the paper up there, We got invited by the landlord of a local pub that we used to use to a rather strange club.
Oh, yeah.
And when we got there...
Was this in Sale?
This was in Altrincham, actually, which is right next to Sale, in the same area. And when we got there, it's an old Georgian house and all that, we were right up to the top and all that. And they'd done out the lounges beautifully, chase lounges and low lighting and lots of, curtains and all that kind of stuff.
Did you say chase lounges?
Yeah, chase lounge.
Chaise lounge.
Chaise lounge, chaise lounge, yeah. And,
classy place.
Yeah, and the whole idea was you were there to meet, people.
Oh, yeah.
Like members of the opposite sex.
When did you realise that was the kind of party it was, though? Because you don't always know that
No,
straight away,
no, we didn't know straight away. No, and the thing is, we were the big attraction because most of these people who were coming in were like middle-aged swingers, right? Seriously.
God, I can't imagine anything worse.
And so, yeah, exactly. So these ladies who were coming in with their husbands, aged, I think between 40 and 50, thought they were going to meet, a bunch of old, the middle-aged swingers.
Yeah.
Saw the three of us there and immediately made a beeline for us,
Okay.
And particularly as we were quite affluent in those days, reporters on the national newspapers were paid very well in those days, particularly in Manchester, because there was a union agreement. They got the same money as the people in London, even though housing was half the price and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
And so we bought all the champagne and all that, and the women came around us like moths round a flame, or bees round a jam jar. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's right. And we went there once or twice, and there was a.
You went there once or twice?
Yeah.
What, you mean you went back?
Well, sort of, and there were inklings of liaisons.
So you went there more than once?
Weren't there more than once, definitely. And the inklings of liaisons and all that kind of stuff. And then it's
involving you or the other two?
Well, involving all of us, I have to say.
Really?
And then it got a bit out of hand because husbands then started sort of getting...
Were they not there as well then?
Well, they were, but they didn't like the attention we were getting from their wives, you see, and that was
Maybe they shouldn't have been into the swinging scene if they were the jealous type.
Oh, well then what happened was the husbands discovered that their wives were then coming to the place without them.
Oh, I see.
They weren't telling the husbands, you see what I mean? So then the liaisons started being...
How terribly seedy.
Well, that's what I said. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. And so...
But,
really,
not after a couple of visits, though.
Well, after that we thought, well, I'm not sure this is a very good idea. And the thing was, those two were both living in the north of England, on their own because they'd come from other parts of the country where they still had homes with wives.
Oh, so they had wives?
Yeah, and it doesn't mind me telling this story.
Are you sure they're not still with those wives?
Well, Peter's been divorced twice since then, and Roger at least once, so it doesn't really matter, you know what I mean?
Well, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean...
a sordid way to live, though.
Well, it wasn't sordid. You know, we were in our sort of mid-20s, you know, we were, free as the wind and all that kind of stuff, and you know, naturally...
And you never knew who any of these women were, presumably?
No, of course not. No, didn't want to know who they were, and naturally we were very attractive.
Were they wearing masks or anything?
No, not at all. But I mean, you know, they had all sorts of strange names and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Right. But I mean, that was
bizarre.
It was just you know, another sort of little. What would you say? Junction on life's journey.
On life's journey down the slippery, moral, greasy pole.
Well,
obviously.
I don't think there's anything immoral about it. I mean, you know,
don't think there's anything immoral about it.
Well, I wasn't married. I wasn't doing anything immoral. You know, what was I doing?
I mean, I wouldn't suggest that you were doing anything immoral, but some others might.
Well,
some say that that kind of behaviour shows that you really don't have a moral compass.
I can't answer for the rest. That's the point, isn't it? Now, there was something I was going to tell you about, and it's this, right? How much do you think you are influenced by advertising? Seriously,
by advertising? Well, I'd like to think that I'm not influenced by it terribly much, but I suppose, I mean, I always have this argument with people. If advertising didn't influence people to buy things, then what would be the point of it?
It's subliminal, a lot of it.
Yeah, it is.
Right, now, did you know that there are two camps in the advertising world? The advertising world, by the way, is worth like 100 billion, you know, worldwide and all that. And it's all madmen and all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not quite as crazed as I think as it used to be, is it? Because, I mean, like a lot of businesses, like Wall Street, like Fleet Street, you know, the advertising business used to be full of crazy people.
It seems
probably
to be
more corporate now.
It seems to be run by that Englishman, Martin Sorrell, who owns WPP, which is the world's biggest advertising agency, made of about 12 different companies.
Right.
And, believe it or not, he is only 5'3" as well.
Is he?
Yeah, amazing man.
Well, the Saatchis as well ran it for a long time, didn't
they? They did. Oh, yeah, absolutely. But the reason I ask you this is because I've been looking at some detailed research on the advertising industry. Right. Yeah, and you know there are two forms of advertising. One is the creative, who believe that everything is conceptual. The other is the action one, okay?
Right.
So,
some of it is just there to give you the name in the back of your mind, isn't it? So that, you know, they might not necessarily be advertising a car for you, but what they want you to do is that when you decide to buy a car, you'll think of that advert.
But one is creative and the other one is called the number cruncher.
Right.
And what the number cruncher prefers is to actually hit you in the face with the facts and hope that you immediately go out and buy something.
That's like the basic sort of supermarket ad where it says, you know, this week we've got 25% off, blah, whatever, right?
Absolutely. Rush down and get a new turkey because it's £2 off.
Yeah.
Whereas the conceptual one, who is said to be the higher breed of advertiser, do things like those Guinness adverts.
Yeah, the Guinness ads, Well, some of the car ads as well, which are kind of bonkers, but you kind of quite like the way they're put together.
Now then, if I was on the number crunching side, I'd have to be a copywriter to come up with great expressions. And I thought of a few myself.
Did you?
I mean, for instance, did you... I mean, one of the greatest of all time was Beans Means Heinz.
Yes.
Right? Who wrote that?
Was it not Sorrell or somebody like that?
It was somebody like that.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was, but it was somebody like that. No. Do you know who I think it was? I think it was an author. I think it was the author who wrote Rats.
Oh, really?
Yeah, honestly, he was in advertising before.
Who wrote Rats?
He died last year, and he's a great guy, James somebody. And I interviewed him years ago. And I worked on the Birmingham Mail in London.
I know the guy. I mean, not James Herriot.
No, it's not James Herriot. No, it's James, and he wrote Rats, and he wrote a few more, and he was an advertising copywriter. But one of the most famous ones was written by Murray Walker.
Oh, yeah.
Go to Work on an Egg.
Yes.
That was written by Murray Walker. Yeah. Right, now, what do you think about this one? The Great Chocolate Pleaser. A packet of Maltesers.
Yeah, who wrote that?
Me.
You wrote that?
Just now.
The Great Chocolate Teaser.
No, the Great Chocolate Pleaser.
Yeah.
A box of Maltesers.
Which is kind of a great slogan if you're in the 60s.
This is great.
But not now, though.
No, it is. It's great even now. It's great even now.
You mean James Herbert?
James Herbert, he was the one, A very lovely man, and I interviewed him honestly when he'd just written his first bestseller, and he was a very humble guy because he said, I'm just an advertising copywriter, you know.
Yeah.
So what I thought was, you see, I came up with that instantly just now, the Great Chocolate Pleaser, a box of Maltesers. Are you sure? Now, if I gave you like a product, I bet you couldn't come up with a snappy line like that instantly.
Well, I'm going to do better than that. I'm going to ask other people to come up with a snappy line for you, maybe.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, like if you were advertising, we were going to advertise you as a person, you know, or as a product.
Yeah.
Perhaps we'll get people to tweet that in. instead?
Well, they'll come up with all sorts of daft ones, like...
Well, they might not. They might come up with some genius ones.
They might say, the only thing good for Parry is a dose of Harry Carey. or something like that.
That's very good.
Which is cruel, you know.
It is cruel.
And,
well, why don't we get them to text them into 81089? You can tweet them in at Mike Parry 8, at IRMOMG, or at the 2 Mikes.
Go on, then. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably... See, I'm not necessarily one of those people that does things immediately, right?
Yes.
There's sometimes, when I used to write a lot of headlines, sometimes one would come to you straight away.
Yeah.
But I tend to work better if I've got 5 minutes to think about it.
You see, I haven't got my genius for the quick words.
Well, no, I mean, that Maltesers thing is good.
Thank you.
But it's very old-fashioned.
The great chocolate pleaser, a box of Maltesers.
Yeah, but it's like a 50s ad, isn't it?
Supposing it was, the Bounty advert, they came from a Blue Lagoon and all that.
They're poisonous, those, aren't they?
No, don't be silly. That was just a theory I had. What I'm saying is, if you wanted to take it away from the Blue Lagoon, the coconuts and all that, you could say something like, no matter where you live, in whatever county, go down to your local shop and get yourself a Bounty. What's wrong with that?
Why do they have to rhyme, though?
Well, because...
They don't have to rhyme.
Because that makes it very English. I mean, not many of us live in Blue Lagoons and all that. I quite like that.
Well, not everybody lives in a county,
No matter where you live or in what county, go down your local shop and buy yourself a Bounty.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Wouldn't that be considered too direct? You see, the whole point of the Bounty bar is that they want you to be... It's not full of Eastern promise. That was Turkish delight, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What was the Bounty phrase, though? There was a phrase, wasn't there?
They came from somewhere.
Yeah, they came from somewhere, yeah. So, I mean, they're not telling you to go and buy a Bounty.
Yeah, but
they're telling you, look at this amazing lifestyle on this desert island, which is surrounded by beautiful women and gorgeous, sort of sun-drenched beaches and, beautiful seas. And they want you to buy into the whole lifestyle thing of a Bounty.
Yeah, and you just said, by the way, we don't all live in counties. Well, you're wrong, we do. We all live in a...
Not everybody lives in a county.
Of course they do.
I don't live in a county.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't live in London.
And you live in Kent as well.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't live in Sussex.
It's Sussex, that's what I meant. Yeah, Sussex.
Well, Sussex is a county, but London isn't.
Of course it is.
No, it isn't.
London is a metropolitan borough.
So what county do I live in London, then?
Metropolitan Borough of London.
That's not a county.
It is. You live in Greater London.
Yeah, but there is no such thing as Greater London anymore.
It is.
There is no such thing as Greater
London.
There is,
honestly.
Inner London. No, there isn't.
There is. I live in the county of Hampshire, down in Gosport, and I live in the county of Surrey. Yeah. So I live in two great counties.
Yeah, you have two Bounties then.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He's Mike Parry. We're getting very close to the Porky quiz on the Sweeney. I've got a couple of advertising slogans for you here. This is good from Jay in Romford.
Right.
Mike Porky Parry thinks he's Dirty Harry.
Hey, well, that's not bad, yeah.
They've obviously decided to follow your lead and rhyme them. Gaz in Birmingham has texted this to 1889. Don't get with Parry if you plan to marry.
Yeah, well, that's not bad. That's not bad, yeah. I quite like that. Well done. Well done, yeah.
Not bad at all. Now, that song, called Mr. Jones, right, by the Counting Crows, or just Counting Crows, if you like that sort of thing, it reminded me of your name check yesterday.
Oh, yes.
Earlier on this week, actually, Winners and Losers, when you had a go at Steve. Was it Steve Smith?
I said he had a boring name.
One of the most boring names in the world.
But funny you should say that, because I got somebody contacted me after that and said, did you know that when somebody's got the name Jones, they are usually in the top 1/3 of affluent people in this country?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I suppose it depends. I mean, because in Wales, Jones is a very common name, isn't it?
He sent me this research piece, seriously, and it says the surname Jones may be the second most common in Britain, but the Joneses as a clan are a step above their peers. That's the verdict of a recent survey of tastes of people called Jones.
Really?
Yeah, the study says Joneses set out with intrepid endeavour to see whether the old adage, keeping up with the Joneses, had any merit against their neighbours, and found that against all odds it does. Joneses, it seems, enjoy a lifestyle to which many people aspire.
I don't know that many people called Jones, actually.
Right, here, they're twice as likely to drink Prosecco as the wider population. That's the working man's champagne these days, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of everybody's champagne,
I suppose
because
it is,
it's much cheaper. Although, apparently, there has been cases of exploding bottles. I don't know if you saw that story last week. There was one particular brand, worrying. I can't remember the name of it, but the bottles have started exploding, so they've had to recall them all,
not good.
Which is a bit worrying.
50% of people in this country named Jones have been on a holiday in the Caribbean. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that? That's an incredible statistic.
Well, many more people than you would believe. I mean, having just sort of tried to navigate the choppy waters of booking a family holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, one, it's incredibly expensive, but you can't believe how many people somehow can afford to do it.
Yeah, I know.
And people that you wouldn't have expected that could afford to spend thousands and thousands on a summer holiday.
Yeah, there's a few here in your sort of bracket of lifestyle, right?
Yes.
1/3 of people called Jones wear cashmere sweaters.
Ah, there we are.
But if you really want to keep up with them, you ought to join a golf club, because 50% of Joneses are more likely to play golf than the rest of us.
Really?
How about that? That's amazing, huh?
Yeah.
I always thought Joneses would, like you say, Jones the butcher.
Yeah.
Jones the milk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, in many ways,
Jones the spanner.
You might say that Jones in Wales is a more working class name, perhaps, than it is in England.
Yeah.
And certainly in Scotland, there's nobody called Jones. I don't
Nobody
think.
called Jones, right. However, while the Joneses may enjoy travelling to Barbados in fine woolen products, i.e. the cashmere jumpers, survey suggests they're not intellectual giants. Aha, here comes the drop. Right, they are 50% less likely to enjoy reading than the wider population, nor are they especially cultural animals, being a quarter less likely to listen to a spot of classical music. So it seems like they're a bit philistinical.
Philistinical?
Yeah, that means like Philistines.
I figured that.
They are third less inclined to do gardening and have an even greater aversion to hiking. Very interesting. Anyway, that's a see. I've said this to you before. I love people with striking names. So, for instance, the great American baseball stars, Babe Ruth, Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah.
But Americans have great names because they come from such diverse backgrounds.
That's right, yeah. They come from very many different cultures, don't they?
There was a guy I knew once in...
well, you think about Custamato, the guy who used to be Mike Tyson's trainer, the great boxing man.
I've told you, haven't I? I had my lady dentist in New York was Dr. Hamburger.
Yeah, Dr. Hamburger.
Dr. Hamburger.
Great,
she was a woman. Yeah, great name for a dentist. And one guy I had to do business with in New York once when I was living there was Skip Bornhooter. And it's just a great name. Skip Bornhooter. Yeah, isn't it a great name?
Yeah, I mean, some of the names are unbelievable.
I love those names. There's some great names around the world. Excuse me.
You're
the
right.
air conditioner's got me again.
Would you like a glass of water?
Only a third of my heart works,
I
so
know.
Be careful.
I think only less than a third of your heart's winning. Here's another slogan for you.
Right.
This one from Ian. He sent this out the 2 mics. If the driver in front is driving like a Burke, it's probably Mr. Parry in his no brakes Merc.
Yeah, I like that.
These have turned more into sort of...
This is very good.
Yeah, they've turned into more kind of riddles, really, aren't they? Chris says, why catch it when you can parry?
Yeah, but they're not advertising slogans.
No.
You're absolutely right. They're turned to riddles. Come on, folks. I put my substantially active brain into... I'll read you the Malteser one again if I can find it. What was it? If you want a chocolate pleaser, get a box of Maltesers. How about that? I think that's great.
Well, except there's an S on the end, isn't there? So it doesn't technically rhyme. I'll see what I tried to buy yesterday, actually, which was slightly perplexing.
Yeah.
I've got, you may have some of these in your many apartments.
Right.
A little strip light underneath the cupboards in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's about sort of a foot and a bit long.
Downward light, so to speak.
Well, it's not a downward light. No, it's an actual strip light. The long tubes.
Yeah, I know, but it puts the light downwards. That's what I mean.
It only puts the light downwards because on top of it, it's an actual cupboard.
Exactly.
But it's not. It hasn't got. It's not pointing downwards.
No.
But I went to a local supermarket thinking, they sell bulbs there, and of course they don't sell them anymore. So I'm now going to have to search the length and breadth of the country. Somebody told me that B&Q might sell them.
Yeah.
But because we now only are allowed to buy these, proper lights which are, in
long-lasting lights, which are
I'm
half as bright.
So I said to this guy in the shop, I said, so where am I supposed to buy one of these? He's like, I'm sure there'll be somewhere around here. And I'm like, what do you mean somewhere around here?
Yeah, you can't find them.
Where are you supposed to go and buy these lights from?
Can't find
them. If anybody's got any advice, I'd quite appreciate it.
I totally agree. Now, what do we make of the Mo Farah situation?
Now, Mo Farah is a very strange story because it started off as this Panorama investigation, didn't it?
Yeah.
And then the Daily Mail...
Well, I think I was going to say, Matt Lawton of the Daily Mail seems to have been right on top of it from the start.
He picked it up and ran with it, and I don't know whether he was involved in the Panorama investigation. The thing I find astonishing is that the Daily Mail seemed to be the only paper that have really, really been hammering away at it. Well, because as Sandy War actually said to me the other morning,
some of the other papers are actually picking it up.
No, they're now picking it up. Yeah, they are. But what I'm saying is that for about the last week, the Mail's been the only paper that's been putting it on the back page, making it the back page lead. Yeah. Everybody else has been shying away from it. And I'll tell you why I think they have.
Yeah, go on.
Because nobody really wants to admit or think about the possibility that Mo Farah's 2012 appearances are somehow tainted, right?
I totally agree.
And they just don't want that to be the case, and so they don't really want to read the stories. And we don't know whether they are in any way tainted, but the story that we're looking at the moment is the mystery over these missing drugs tests, which we didn't know about until the Mail came out with this story yesterday.
Yeah.
And his excuse apparently for missing these 2 drug tests was that he didn't hear the doorbell.
For an hour.
That's
what's revealed tonight. The video evidence that Mo Farah used in a bid to escape being punished for a second missed drugs test can be revealed by Sportsmail today. This is Matt Lawton, great investigative reporter. Matt Lawton was the man who brought us the story about the email, the offensive emails and the Swansea situation.
Oh,
remember?
yes, right, yeah.
You know, with Malky Mackay.
Yeah, Cardiff, you mean, yeah?
Cardiff,
yes,
I'm sorry.
Right,
yeah, Cardiff, Malky Mackay. So it says, Farah came under mounting pressure last night to explain how he missed a second test that jeopardises Olympic ambitions after bosses at UK Anti-Doping said a drug test officer would have rung his doorbell up to 7 times and stayed there outside his door for an hour. I mean, this is amazing. It's amazing stuff. I mean, these are allegations, obviously, and arguments being put forward.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the one thing that you do, you'd have to question is unless you live in a massive house, which some people do, and maybe he does, if somebody rings a doorbell, I mean, you don't normally ignore it for an hour.
No, you don't. I mean,
one of the most annoying things, in fact, this happened to me yesterday, was, some courier or other rang my doorbell. Yeah. It's got like an intercom type thing, and rang it for quite a long time, woke me up. At like 11 o'clock in the morning when I was asleep.
Yeah.
And you know what it's like if you're trying to sleep during the day and you get woken up.
Yes.
And, I went and answered it, and he's like, I've got a package for another different number from the one I live at. I'm like, well, this is not the same number.
No, exactly.
And he's like, well, can you take delivery of it? I was like, no.
Yeah,
well, of course I can't. And I said, don't ring the bloody bell.
That's a new rule they've introduced, that they can now leave packages with neighbours so they don't have to come back. Yeah. It is very annoying. What you should do is, mate, you should do what I do, sleep with one eye open.
One eye open?
Yeah, I do all the time.
Really?
I'm never really asleep.
I think that's part of the problem, though.
No.
Well, that's why after a time, if you do that for too long, you do start to go partially doolally.
That's part of my success. But anyway, what I'm saying is, if somebody rings my doorbell, generally speaking, if I'm not expecting anybody, I never, ever answer it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
No, I tend not to either.
I totally agree. Now, if they rang a second time, I'd think, could it be important? If they rang a third time and a fourth time, and if they rang 7 times
over the course of an hour,
you'd have to say, I suppose, because I told you that time when I didn't answer the bell because I thought, I can't be bothered. Yeah. And it was actually some very friendly neighbour telling me you left your lights on in your car downstairs, so there was a danger the battery was going to run out.
Right.
But he just rang twice and then went away. I thought, well, that can't be that important, you know. But if somebody rang 7 times, you would be duty-bound with your own conscience.
Yeah.
I mean, they could be ringing to tell you that the flat below you's on fire or something, you know.
And also, if you are an athlete and you are subject to these random drug tests, surely you have to be even more sort of prepared for that kind of interruption.
That is the most salient point you've just made. Surely they are warned that random drug tests mean that people may come to your place of abode at any time, night or day. You have to admit them to your house and subject yourself to a test.
I know Andy Murray's talked about this in the past, because he's talked about how irritated he's been sometimes when he thought that he was preparing for a game.
Yeah.
And suddenly, his whole kind of routine was put off because somebody turned up to give him a random drug test, which doesn't take a short amount of time. It takes an hour or something to do it.
Yeah, that's
so it's a very curious story. Who knows whether it will end up completely exonerating not just Mo Farah but also his trainer, because nobody's really sure about all of the questions that he's being asked.
Yes.
Salazar, it's very odd. But the thing that I find interesting is, as you say, all the other papers are now picking it up, and the pressure is going to build on Mo Farah to come out with some kind of statement, I would imagine.
I won't be able to pronounce the lady's name, but is it Christine Ohurgu?
Ohurgu.
Now she missed a couple of tests. She paid a penalty for it, I think, didn't she? Didn't she get some sort of ban or something like that?
Yeah.
And I remember her defence was that she had gone to the place of the test in a car, right, and that she just got there late, and so she didn't bother bothering them. She turned around and went home.
Right.
Now, Oliver Holt, who was then writing for the Daily Mirror, now writes for the Mail on Sunday.
Yeah.
He did a great piece. He went on the route at the same time she would have gone on the day that she said she was going to go. So if it was like a Tuesday at 11 o'clock, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
He got in his car, started off at her house. I know where the test was. It was at the Crystal Palace athletics ground or something. and he said he got there in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
He tried it twice, and there was never a problem getting there. And it's that sort of thing, you know, which great journalism, great investigative journalism can actually sort out.
Yes.
So you do wonder. You do.
It's an interesting story. I'm sure we'll be hearing more
Martin
about
Samuel says in the Mail, the nation must hope and pray that Mo's only mistake was being absent-minded.
Yes.
So, you know, already, you know, aspersion has been cast on this excuse of not hearing the bell.
Yeah, so we will hear more, I'm sure, throughout the course of the weekend. Now, coming up next, it's that time. It's time for the Porky quiz. So
bring it on.
Get your best Cockney accent ready, because it's on the Sweeney. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham, and it is time, of course, for the Porky quiz. Mike Parry's here, and if anything else, if we only ever just heard the signature tune of that fantastic show, that would be quite a good reason to do this.
It certainly would, yeah.
But that's not the only reason, because you did say earlier this week that you wanted to have a quiz on the Sweeney.
Yes.
After the quiz that we did last week on Colombo, which you did very well on, I have to say.
And should have done better.
Well...
And got tremendous public sympathy from our millions of listeners who said that either you were too harsh with the answers, not even giving me the leeway of a year each way on the death of Peter Falk, who played Colombo, or actually giving me misleading questions.
Well, I'm not giving you any misleading questions. I am provided with the questions by the independent quiz masters.
You always say
I've
that.
got them here. As ever, if you get one correct, you will hear this.
Get your trousers on. You're nicked.
Right.
If you get one wrong, you'll hear this.
Shatty.
Oh, okay.
So you'll remember those
Sounds
phrases.
good.
Now, are you ready for 10 questions?
I certainly am.
We'll try and give you some leeway if at all possible, but, you know, sometimes the questions just don't allow for it. Question number one. Okay. Can you name the 3 movie versions made of the TV series?
There was, with Reagan and Carter, there was Sweeney 2.
Yeah.
And then the third one was made with Ray, what's his name, from Scum, 3 years ago. And that was called the Sweeney.
Correct.
Thank you.
Get your trousers on.
Thank you. Hey, that's brilliant.
One out of one. That's very good.
Brilliant.
Now, question number 2. You may have partially answered.
You're nicked.
Who starred as Reagan and Carter in the 2012 version?
I've just told you, Ray...
you said Ray, what's his name?
Yeah, Ray...
You can't get a point for that.
Ray... You know what I'm talking about. He played...
Well, I might know who you're talking about, but you've got to give me his name.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I had a drinking session with him at the World Cup in Germany. Great guy. Ray Winstone.
Okay.
Ray Winstone.
Yes.
Played Reagan.
Yeah.
And Carter was played by... Carter. You see, once again, you're cheating.
Why am I cheating?
Because the Sweeney that I want the questions asked on are the Sweeney TV series, not a film that was made 2 years ago.
You wanted questions on the Sweeney.
The Sweeney, you know exactly what I meant. I meant the one that the...
Well, I know what you're moaning about. You've already got the first one right.
No, well, I can only tell you it was Ray Winstone and maybe that guy who plays the Geordie guy in Inspector George Gently.
Who's that?
I don't know.
Neither do I. I'll give you half a point for Ray Winstone.
Yeah, but it's a bum question.
It's not a bum question.
It's not the... You see...
Ben Drew is the guy that was playing Carter.
Both your answers, right and wrong, come from the original Sweeney series. That's what the question should be on.
Well, I can't speak for that.
That was another gerrymandered question.
You've got 1.5 out of 2.
Gerrymandered.
Which is pretty good. Question number 3. Who was Jack and George's superior officer?
Haskins.
Yes.
Yes. Frank Haskins.
Frank Haskins.
Frank
Correct.
Haskins. Thank you.
Get your trousers on.
You don't object to that question then?
Of course not, because it was from the original series.
Okay. Question number 4. What car did Bill usually drive Regan around in?
Right, there were 4 series of the Sweeney. In the first one, it was a Consul, but as the series developed into 2, 3 and 4, it became a Ford Granada.
Correct.
Thank you.
Get your trousers on.
Hey.
You're nicked.
So you've now got 3.5 out of 4.
Thank you.
Are you still upset about the questions?
Well, I'm upset about the one about the modern Sweeney film.
Unbelievable.
Because that wasn't the Sweeney.
Question number 5. What are the names of Regan's ex-wife and daughter?
What, in the series?
Why do you keep looking over in that direction?
Well, I'm not
you keep looking over in a direction. Have you got notes over there?
Of course I haven't got notes.
Do you have to get the producer to come in and make sure you haven't got any notes?
Of course you haven't, you idiot.
I think you should come in and check, because he keeps looking in the same direction. Just remove any pieces of paper.
Ridiculous.
Take away any pieces of paper, and he's just turned his phone off as well. Take his
Excuse
phone.
me?
Take his phone. Take his information device.
Don't be ridiculous. It's
Why
my
not?
phone.
Why?
Somebody might ring me.
No, nobody's going to ring you. You're on the radio.
All these are, if you have a look,
Yeah.
all these are the subjects we've been doing tonight. As you can
What
see.
have you found? Have you found some crib notes?
Don't be
no!
ridiculous.
Oh my goodness me!
Don't be
What
ridiculous.
is this? Detective Inspector Frank Hoskins, Garfield.
Oh, I don't know where
Regan,
that came from.
Originally rigging, dear me. Listen, we'll forget that we found all this material, because I'm afraid the trouble is, you see, as soon as you start getting 4.5 out of 5, then we realise that we may have a problem. So, what are the names of Regan's ex-wife and daughter? Question number 5.
Sasha.
Pardon?
Sasha, I think, was his daughter. And his wife was Sharon.
Incorrect.
Yeah.
It was Kate and Susie. Okay. So you're probably not going to get any right now that we've removed your cheating.
No.
Your pieces of crib sheets.
No.
Astonishing that you would cheat.
There is no crib sheet.
I'm going to take a picture of it in a minute.
Well, all I would say is there's no information on that bit of paper that you found which relates to any of the questions I got right.
You're Nick Sonny.
No.
Right, 6. Question number 6. You've got 3.5 out of 5, which is still pretty good.
Yeah.
Which of these stars did not appear in the Sweeney? Okay, so listen carefully to the names. Maureen Lipman, George Siegel, David Jason, Brian Blessed, and Linda LaPlante.
How many of them?
Well, I'm asking you for which one of them did not appear in the series.
What, just one?
Yeah, well, Maureen Lipman, George Siegel, David Jason, Brian Blessed, and Linda LaPlante. The question says which of these stars did not appear in the Sweeney?
Yeah, so is it one or more than one?
Well, I don't know. I didn't write the question.
This is a very open-ended question, this. I want to know if it's 2 or 3 or 4 or 1.
I can't tell you that.
Right, run through them again.
Maureen Lipman. Do you think she was in it?
I think she was in it.
Okay, George Siegel.
He was definitely in it.
David Jason.
He wasn't in it.
Brian Blessed.
He wasn't in it.
Linda LaPlante.
She wasn't in it.
All right, so you're saying that Maureen Lipman and George Siegel were in it, David Jason, Brian Blessed, and Linda LaPlante were not.
I'll say that one of the others was. I'll say 3 were in it and 2 weren't.
Incorrect.
Right.
They were all in it.
See, this is ridiculous. That was a ridiculously stupid question.
Why?
How many of them weren't, and they all were?
They were all in it.
That's another misleading question.
What does it say on your notes?
I haven't got any notes, and I didn't have any notes.
3.5 out of 6.
That was just amongst my papers I brought in for, what we were doing tonight.
Okay. Question number 7. How many episodes were made?
4 series of 12, 48.
It's close enough, I'll give you that. 53 is the right
53?
answer.
Oh,
I'm only because I'm feeling sorry for you.
No, I'll tell you what that was. There were some trailers made at the start.
No, they weren't. There was 3 series with 13 episodes, and 1 series was 14 episodes.
Excellent.
So I'll give you a point for that, even though I shouldn't really. 4.5. Who composed the theme music?
Theme music. Was it a guy called Barry? That's his surname. Is it John Barry?
Are you thinking aloud? Is that the answer?
I'm thinking aloud. Hang on. John Barry, yes. That's
incorrect.
It's
funny how you haven't got any right since I took your notes away.
I certainly have. I got the 48 number right.
No, you didn't. It was 53.
Yeah,
I just happened to give it to you because I felt sorry for you.
Close enough.
4.5 out of 8. Question number 9. Which modern detective drama running from 2006-7 in TV here was inspired by The Sweeney?
Life on Mars?
Correct.
Hey!
You're nicked.
5.5.
Didn't need a crib sheet for that, did I?
No, amazing. So you admit you had a crib sheet?
No,
then?
I don't admit I had a crib sheet. I didn't have a crib sheet, no. And I don't know what on earth the producer was coming in here scuffling a wrong amount among my research papers.
Crib sheet any second.
No.
Question number... You're still doing very well. This is almost as high as you got for the chocolate test.
Exactly.
Question number 10. When did the last episode of the show, Jack or Knave, air? And that means, when did it air at the end of the series, basically?
I think that the first one...
I'm told I can give you 3 months either way.
OK, the first one was in January 1975, and the last one was at the end of 1978.
Well, when you say the end of 1978, are you saying December 1978?
I'm saying November 1978.
I'm giving you December 78, so you're correct.
Get your trousers on.
So you get 6.5 out of 10. However, I think there's going to have to be a steward's inquiry because when I put out the notes that I've found from your desk, I'm going to have to ask the audience, I think, to decide whether to take any points off you.
Don't be ridiculous.
Because 6.5 out of 10
is brilliant.
Is generally speaking good.
Yeah.
But I have to say your performance in the second half, once you removed the crib sheet.
No, there's no crib sheet.
Well, I've just taken a picture of it. I'm about to tweet it out.
No, don't be ridiculous.
And you just admitted there was a crib sheet.
Well, all right. Well, in that case, here are, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 handwritten pages of information about stuff we were doing tonight. So take a picture of all those.
Have they got anything about the Sweeney?
Of course they haven't. Take a picture of all those.
Well, this one's got only things about the Sweeney.
No, that was just to remind me we were doing the Sweeney quiz. That wasn't a crib sheet at all. And I wasn't even looking at it. When the producer came in, he gerrymandered the evidence. There was no evidence at all.
Let me read what it says here. Detective Chief Inspector Frank Haskins.
Right.
Garfield Morgan was the name of the actor.
Yes.
You've also written down Ian Kennedy Martin, who's the guy that wrote the show.
That's right, I knew that.
You've also wrote down 16mm film.
Yes.
You've also written down the driver's name was Bill, played by Tony Allen.
Yes.
You've also written down that Richard Wilson was Haskins. You've also written down the names of the Sweeney films, Sweeney, Sweeney 2 and The Sweeney.
Yeah.
So there's at least 4 answers in that first piece of the crib sheet.
Not at all. Listen, when you said, right, we're doing the Sweeney now, I was hurriedly thinking in my head, right, now remember...
So you're saying you just wrote this out
I did.
then?
I wrote them down in the studio.
So
I wrote them down in this studio without any outside information.
Where's the pad from which this piece of paper comes?
What do you mean was the pad?
Well, it's you write on A4 paper in the office, right?
Yes.
This is written on notebook, smaller paper.
Yes, that's right.
Which has clearly been folded up.
I had it in my pocket.
You had it in your pocket?
Blank piece of paper. I always carry a blank piece of paper around with me in case I get any ideas.
Have you got any more blank pieces of paper in your pocket?
I don't think so, no.
Because you've just used that one up. Listen, it's perfectly democratic. I don't think you would object to me asking the audience as to whether... Look at this face on you. You look as guilty as sin. How you ever got through with a life of crime, I'll never know.
They don't know the facts of the situation.
You look ridiculously filthy.
They don't know the facts of the
Unbelievable.
situation.
Cheating nonsense.
Not at all.
Right,
Not at all.
I'm going to ask the audience, please do tweet us at the 2 mics. How many points should we remove? He's got 6.5 out of 10. I will take a mean average. I'm minded to take away 3.
No.
Which would give him 3.5 out of 10.
I'm not having that.
This is Talk Sport. I've often thought of you to be a reasonably, honourable individual.
I
You've
am.
completely broken the spell on that.
You're making things up in your head.
I'm now thinking how many times you've done it. No. We've already got the hashtag SweeneyGate going on at the moment on Twitter. And here's one from Ant who says, Porky's still cheating. Deduct 5 points.
No.
Disgraceful.
No, this is not fair.
Maddie
didn't cheat.
says, congrats, Mike Parry. Hashtag Sweeney expert. Sir Seen and Heard says, Mike Mo Farah Parry removed 3 points.
No.
Not, of course, that we're in any way causing any reason to think that Mo Farah's got any problems.
Exactly.
Here's one from Gifford. Clearly a cheat and a sore loser. Take away every point.
What do you mean?
Frazzle says, here's one in your favour. The first one in your favour. Nah, let him keep them to make up for past gerrymandering by you.
But there's been no cheating on my behalf. I want to say to my millions and millions of listeners out there who follow my moral code and my moral compass in life, I would not stoop to those sort of things. I was literally, to remind myself, after all the research and all the years I've been watching Sweeney, I wrote down a few notes. I admit that they're in my handwriting.
Why did you deny that there was anything there in the first place?
But because you were trying to insinuate that it was there to try and give me an advantage, and it wasn't. It was there because I was reminding myself what was going on.
Yeah. Here's one from Roy who says, take away 4 points. He's a dirty, low-down, cheating rattlesnake. Just when I was giving him kudos, he manages to disappoint me.
That's a horrible thing to say about me.
It looks as though, I would say the average is take away 3 points. So
no.
you take away 3 points, you get 3.5 out of 6. Some people are saying take away all the points.
No.
The average request is 3 points.
No.
So I think if you got 3.5 out of it, that would be about average. I think you should accept that. Throw yourself on the mercy of the Crown. Otherwise, you might find yourself being drug tested, taken away, having all previous points rescinded.
I swear on the life of the...
Who are you going to swear on? Whose memory are you going to besmirch in order to save your skin?
On the life of the ducks at the Ducks Conservancy that I look after, and there's hundreds of them. I swear to you, I did not use one piece of information from a crib sheet to answer anything.
All right, here's one.
I swear to that, folks.
I'll tell you what.
Do not take these points off me. You will ruin my life.
I'll tell you what. Sometimes the wisdom of Solomon comes into play when we appeal to our listeners, and I think this is the wisdom of Solomon from Ali, who says this. Take away 1 point if Porky confesses. If he does not confess, take away 4.
I can't confess because I didn't commit a crime.
I think you did.
That's like the medieval choice. Confess and you will drown, or deny it and you will...
And we'll set you on fire.
Yeah, we'll set you on
fire.
fire.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
That's good. Well, I'm giving you the opportunity. I'm saying, I think, to take away 3 is about the summation of what people are saying. I've got a lot of tweets here. People are very worked up.
It's so unfair. It's so unfair.
Is that somebody at the door?
Somebody at the door, yeah. That's a bit...
that's very good.
That's very good, but a bit provocative.
Cheating like a schoolboy, says Peter.
No, I can't possibly... What have you done? Have you put out that piece of paper?
I've tweeted out the picture of the piece of paper, which is very clearly written in your handwriting, right, with all the Sweeney notes on it.
But I was only reminding myself.
Which enabled you to get the first 3.5 points.
I was only reminding myself.
You know very well that you're not supposed to have any aids. It's not one of those...
There weren't any aids.
Yes, you were using... No. You were using information which you had surreptitiously brought into the studio.
You made it look like a grubby little piece of paper.
That's exactly what it is.
That I was writing notes on, all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's only because I noticed you kept looking in the same direction before you answered the question.
But it was all part of my research. There was nothing underhand about it at all.
I think what we're going to have to say for the next quiz, we're going to have to ask you to take all your clothes off and stand in your boxer shorts.
For goodness sake.
And you'll have nothing. You'll have nothing on the desk at all.
I think we've talked about this too long. Don't you think we should look at tomorrow morning's papers for the benefit of our listeners?
Well,
they don't want to know about your silly campaign against me.
So if you're not willing to confess and only have 1 point deducted, then I'm afraid the total is 3.5 out of 10.
I'm not accepting it.
Well, you have to accept
6.5 out of 10.
No.
I'm saying 6.5 out of 10.
Well,
I can't confess to something I didn't do.
What do you mean you can't confess to something
you
didn't do?
I didn't do.
All right, well, maybe we'll run the test again next week.
Well,
and this time you won't have any help. Okay. Now, let's have a look at some of the stories on the front pages, as you say. I'm so disappointed, I just don't know where to begin. But how about at £7 billion, the cost of rescuing Parliament? You've seen this one. The Houses of Parliament apparently are falling into the river. Yeah. And they're so old. I mean, you'll know this from the number of times you've been down there. Yeah. There's going to, labyrinth-like corridors.
I totally agree.
Parts of the buildings that are falling down. But I think this has to be spent, this money, doesn't it?
I totally agree with you. Because you know what the alternative is? The alternative is to get all the parliamentarians out of Parliament and spend $3 billion over 3 years, or $7.5 million over 10 years.
And they can't get rid of Parliament, sure.
No, I totally agree. It's got to be spent. And by the way, we, seeing those figures, which shocked me yesterday, that we pay out 7% of the whole of the world's welfare bill.
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier.
7%, the whole take some out of there, please, and repair Parliament.
Yeah.
Because it's Mother Parliament which gives us the ability to pass laws which effectively give away all this money to welfare, which is a scandal.
Right, well, we agree on that.
Why do you think that all these poor, dispossessed people in North Africa whose lives and homes have been blown to smithereens by Western politicians who decided they knew better about how their country should be run?
Which people are you talking about?
I'm talking about George W. Bush. I'm talking about Tony Blair.
Yeah, but which countries, though? You're talking about like Iraq?
I'm talking about Iraq, Libya and Syria. Because Western politicians think
the West didn't attack Syria, though.
Sorry?
The West didn't attack Syria.
Well, no, but what they did is they released forces within that part of North Africa, whereby Syria became threatened then by forces that were out of control.
Okay.
It's all down to George Bush, Tony Blair, and, in my opinion, Mr Cameron has questions to answer, the current Prime Minister, about the so-called liberation of Libya that didn't want liberating in the first place,
Well, that was all down to Hillary Clinton when she was at the State Department, wasn't it?
I
had no idea you were one of those kind of, anti-war brigade types.
Oh, I'm anti-war brigade. Anyway, why are we talking about this? I've forgotten now.
Well, because it's in the papers, and you were saying somehow that it's all the fault of Tony Blair and George Bush.
Yeah, but it's not in the papers, is it?
Spending £7 billion on Parliament.
That's right, yeah.
I don't know how you got onto that.
Well, what I'm saying...
I'll tell you what we should talk about.
Just let me finish my point.
Well, hurry up.
Now, all those people, those poor dispossessed people, are now heading for Europe, and they're heading to the country that gives out more welfare than all the other countries in Europe put together, and that's Great Britain.
Well, you've already said that 3 times tonight.
Yeah, but we've got to, in that case, slash the welfare bill in 2 to stop becoming a magnet for all the world's people who are dispossessed and want a life. You can't blame them for wanting a life, but why? We cannot take them all. The country will collapse if we do that.
I see. Now, the thing that I want to raise to your attention, and since we're talking about global geopolitics, right?
Yeah.
On The Independent, desperate Greeks look to Putin for their salvation. For the last 2 nights, I've been watching massed Athenians sort of hanging around together in a big public square,
I've been
waiting for something to happen.
I've been there.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to ask about your visit to Athens. I want to talk about the collapse
big square
of the
was
Greek
taken over by
economy.
Liverpool fans when the Champions League final was played there. It was when they lost to AC Milan.
Oh, right, okay. Well, anyway, now it's been taken over by ordinary citizens who don't seem to have a clue about what's going on. The government, I think, are off to visit Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
And there are worries now that Putin and Russia are going to kind of stick their nose into Greek and Western European affairs. However, they haven't got the money, have they, Russia?
Well, that was always going to happen. You see, if you create a vacuum, this is one of the great things in life, which I knew from my physics studies.
Oh, yeah.
Create a vacuum, that vacuum
Did you
will
cheat
be...
in those as well?
Eh?
Did you cheat in those as well?
Of course, I don't cheat in the things. That vacuum will be filled, if people allow a vacuum to develop. Now, the other thing is about Mr. Putin, he's not the bad guy everybody says he is.
That's what you keep saying.
Yeah, I don't believe this. I believe that he's got a valid point in asking the West to get their nose out of the affairs of what used to be the former Soviet bloc, because he has more claim to it than they do, or we do.
Right, well, not Greece, though.
Now, the other thing is, on that very one...
But surely not Greece.
What do you mean?
He doesn't have any claim on Greece, does he?
The Greeks have gone to him, not the other way around.
No, I know that.
The Greeks have said that we've been ground into the dust by Germany and Britain and France and all that. Can you help us? Because they won't help us. I mean, the truth of the matter is, Greece spent far too much money without earning any money and now expect the rest of Europe to pay their bills. Yeah. But they've gone to a very willing Mr. Putin because he's at odds with the European leaders.
Yes.
Now, what I'm saying is, old Peter Mandelson, who's been a bit of a slippery individual for decades, at least 3 decades. I remember him coming to the Daily Express, when he was a mate of Paul Potts, our deputy editor, and I had lunch with him once. Yeah. And I always thought in those days, what a very strange, deep man Mr. Mandelson is. Yeah. And he's known as the master of the dark arts, and I could tell then.
Did he still have the moustache in those days?
No, he didn't have a moustache in those days.
The first time I met him, he still had the moustache. No, he looked very different.
Oh, yes, he did have. Yeah, I'm sorry, he did. Yes, the other way around. He did have the moustache in those days, and he looked very odd. But the point I'm making is, it's now revealed that Mr. Putin is over in Russia advising... Mr. Mandelson is over in Russia advising Mr. Putin on his public image and all that. And I say, well, OK, that's fine. That's fine. If Tony Blair can go make 200 million quid from wrecking the economy of this country, wrecking the geopolitical state
you felt
in the
so
Middle
strongly
East.
about Tony Blair.
I do, I'm sorry, because I think it's a disgrace the way that he's taken on so-called political office since he left Downing Street, but has used that political office with 16 men from Scotland Yard accompanying him around the world to actually rake in hundreds of millions of pounds of profit from business ventures. I think it's a disgrace.
Right.
I think it's a disgrace that all politicians cash in after their failed political careers. I read that Ed Balls is now going back to Harvard University to lecture on economics.
Oh, is he?
Well, hang on. This is a man who contributed to the destruction of the British economy. Why should he be lecturing at Harvard? I just don't get it.
I know. Incredible,
I just don't get it.
Well, it just goes to show you that once you're in that kind of circle of people, you'll always have a job of some kind or another. Now, I've got a headline for you. This is something that you say often on this show. Okay. Smarter than the average bear.
Yeah, that's
the headline in the Mirror. And it's page 14. Picture of a bear in Ankara in Turkey.
Oh, fell in a pit?
Fell down a well.
Yeah, I saw that.
And the rescuers decided that there's no way we can get into the well to get him out because he'll probably eat us or, maul us to death.
It's only a bear cub, actually.
Yeah, so they put... Well, so it's still got sharp claws, though.
Yeah, that's true.
But they put a ladder down into the well.
Yeah.
And he climbed the ladder out of the well.
Good God.
So that's why I say smarter than the average bear.
Absolutely shocking.
I'm afraid still there is a massive amount of ill feeling towards you.
No, there shouldn't be. That's because you stirred it up. And that damn producer of ours came in here and started ruffling through my notes.
Well, he discovered
that's all they were.
Discovered
no, he didn't.
what you were looking at.
He's made a completely unfounded allegation against me. I am sticking with my 6.5 out of 10. No, you didn't have any
Now, on
evidence.
your way home, I want you to stop off. There's a couple of bookshops that are open very early in the morning because there's a whole load of women queuing up outside them to get the latest novel from that guy who wrote the 50 Shades of Grey. The new one's coming out, right? There are pictures in the papers of women who are going to queue up all night to get their hands on this latest tome.
I've seen a review
so
of it.
I would say if you're looking for the first Mrs. Parry, this could be a great opportunity for you.
Any
woman, swing by in the Merc.
No.
Anyone who's summon them over to the car and say, look at this. I've got, all guns blazing in this car.
Well, I'm sorry.
You fancy a first-class trip to Reading?
Sorry, mate. I've seen a review of the second book written by a woman, Jan Muir or somebody in the Mail, some very distinguished women journalist. And I can tell you this, that I never read a word of the first, but it's rubbish. The second one is even bigger rubbish, according to reviewers. Any woman queuing up...
How do you know if you haven't read it, though?
Well, because I read the reviews of these things. Right. Any woman queuing up now to buy, version 2 of 50 Shades of Grey wouldn't have a hope in hell of becoming the first Mrs. Parry because I don't want a fruitcake-ess as my future partner in life, OK?
No, you prefer opposites, really, don't you?
Eh?
You prefer opposites.
Well,
really,
no, I just prefer somebody who's stable and not whose life is not corrupted and transformed by some ridiculous book about things that have never happened. OK?
OK.
You got it?
I've got it.
Good.
Yeah. Somebody stable for Mike Parry.
Yeah.
Funniest thing you said all night.
And 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, it's 3.5 out of 10, and that's the final offer. 08717 223344 is the number to call us on. We've got loads coming up in the next hour or so. Mr. Parry, thank you very much indeed. I'll be seeing you on Monday night.
You bet.
It's Father's Day this weekend, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's
You
right,
won't be celebrating that because you haven't got any children, but I will. This
is
Talk Sport.
Oh, that's very... It's simulated egg.
You work all the time because you fear spending time on your own.
No.
Yes, you do.
No, I like spending time on my own. It means I haven't got to put up with
half-baked
jerks like you,
really?
Mumbling nonsense in my ear. You know, that's something I could do without on a day off.
I've never mumbled in your ear.
And all I'm saying is,
what are you saying?
That anybody in this country can get a job. By the way, did you see the figures in the newspapers this morning?
About what?
We have 1% of the world's population.
Yeah.
We have 4% of the world's wealth in our GDP.
Okay.
But we give out 7% of all the welfare money given out in the world is given out in this country.
Is it?
Although we only got 1% of the people. I mean, to say...
I'm always very suspicious of those kind of studies.
To say the welfare system in this country is completely out of control is the understatement of the year. I mean, successive politicians over the last 30 years have used the welfare system as lazy mothers use Calpon as a liquid cosh.
Why do you use those words, liquid cosh?
A liquid cosh means that you give the baby the Calpon, it stops crying.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
You know nothing about... One, you know nothing about the
I
name.
know about these things.
You don't know anything about Calpol. You can't even pronounce the way it's supposed to be said.
I know about these things. And what I'm saying is the welfare system in this country...
You don't even know what form Calpol comes in.
If you put them on welfare...
You get tablets now, so it's not liquid, is it?
It's still called the liquid cosh.
Why is it called a liquid cosh if it's not liquid?
Well, because it comes in a bottle.
Because you're an ignoramus.
What a mother does is, when she can't stand the crying
anymore...
What do you know about mothers? Hang on. She gets hold of the baby's head, tips it back, pours the Calpol down the baby's throat.
I don't think so.
What are you laughing at?
I don't think so.
What are you laughing at?
I mean, what sort of maniacal mother would do that?
This is what happens.
No.
That's why it's called the liquid cosh, you oaf.
No, that's what your mother used to do with you, except it was a bottle of brandy, which is why you've become a functioning alcoholic most of your life.
I think not. And what I'm saying is the welfare system in this country is used just like that. Politicians say, oh, we don't want the dole queues to get any longer. Don't worry about the time. We don't want the dole queues to get any longer. I tell you what, put them on welfare. Let's invent a new illness. It's called unable to work-itis.
Porky brainitis is what you're suffering from. I wish there was an illness that could take you out of here for a while and lie you down because you've been shouting for an hour. I'd like to ask you, please, if you wouldn't mind reducing the volume of your output for the next hour, and then maybe people won't be complaining for the rest of the night.
People love to hear my voice.
Yeah, really. Absolute cobblers.
Like you're an unattractive fat slob.
Yes, but not quite as unattractive as you.
Unattractive fat slobs like you are leading the world to the edge of a precipice of doom.
Yes.
And that precipice of doom is fatness killing you. And fatness is going to kill an awful lot of people. It's already killing people.
Why do you care so much about it? You don't care about people dying.
I do.
Do you?
Because my taxes are going up all the time to try and treat the sort of conditions that emerge in people who have your bodily shape.
I see.
You are more prone now to get some sort of killer disease.
When people see pictures of the two of us
when
together...
your knees collapse under the weight of your fat body above your knees...
When people see pictures of us together, why do you think they constantly say, I don't know why Porky keeps calling you fat, because you're obviously much thinner than he is. Everyone on Twitter.
I've never heard anybody say that.
Our friend James was here last night. Why don't you read all the comments underneath the picture that he sent out last night? And you can do that when we come back from the news. And then you can find out why people think that you're such a strange and hideous shape. Whereas I actually don't look that bad.
Trying to cause a diversion again? You won't face up to the facts, Mike. You won't face up to the facts.
It's like talking to some kind of ventriloquist dummy. Has somebody got their hand up your back?
No.
You're making no sense at all.
Here, it says here, we don't have an obesity problem because we eat fresh fish from the sea and not cans. You should do more of that, Mr. Parry. That must be some guy who lives in Whitstable or something like that.
Whitstable?
Well, some sort of port up there. Pwllheli. Oh, no, that's in North Wales. Yeah. OK, Right, thank you very much indeed.
What are you talking about now?
Well, what I'm saying is I'll get some comments in from people who are on my side and know
that
exactly what I'm talking about.
That guy wasn't on your side. He told you to stop eating fish out of a can.
No.
How about this one from Geordie Jeff? If Porky's so good at golf, how come he whacked a golf ball at Mike Boville at the Open a few years ago, which was recorded live on TalkSport at the time? I believe Mr. Boville still has nightmares about it.
No, it nearly fractured his knee, actually.
Did it?
And it was a bit of a mistake because I was aiming to go straight down the fairway on a simulator, obviously, but I did something to the ball. It was a brilliant shot. It went off at 90 degrees to the right.
Oh, dear.
And Mike Boville, who was...
So it went 90 degrees to the right and hit him at knee level, so it wasn't exactly a high shot then?
No, it wasn't a high shot, but it could have taken his knee off, literally.
Right.
It was, it was Mike's fault for being in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It was,
he was standing to the side. He thought you were going to hit it forward.
Yeah, well, he should have known that
Is that why he had to sit in that funny chair for a few years afterwards?
I'm a very versatile golfer.
Yeah, you can't play golf. You are so deluded about so many things. I don't even know where to begin.
Don't be ridiculous.
Here's one from Roy, who says, perhaps a diet of canned lean ham, fish and chips and minced soup should be made compulsory in hospitals. Hashtag Porky's diet.
It's better than stuffing kebabs down your throat 24 hours a day.
Well, I don't do that.
No, you say you don't. I've seen you queuing up in the... What is he laughing at? What is our producer laughing at?
He's not laughing. That's the guy sitting next to you.
I can.
You lost the plot tonight.
No, I haven't lost the plot at all. I can tell you kebabs are not good for you. I've never had a kebab. I've never had an egg and I've never had a kebab. I never will.
You eat cake, don't you?
Sometimes. A bit of lemon drizzle.
Yeah, it's got egg in it.
Well, it's simulated egg. If
simulated
you see what I mean.
egg?
Yeah.
Okay, well, as long as you're only eating simulated egg, you'll be fine. Maybe I'll make you a simulated omelette.